Chapter 4462. Chapter 4462, he hollered at the white deer, a bit impatient. This had never happened before. Ever since he had gotten the horse had never been so docile. Especially when they wanted to tame it, no matter how strong or weak, they would step on it until it died. This was the first time something like this, which was actually lingering in the air, had happened. As for the white deer saying that it was afraid of Long Fei, it didn't even believe him. Go on, kill this pretentious thing and still want to be this young master's boss. That's impossible. Kill him for me, he ordered the white deer proudly. As he spoke, the lightning imprint on his hand also began to flicker nonstop. It was as if he was using this method to instigate Jianma to carry out his will. However, Jianma was completely unmoved. He looked at the white deer as if it was an idiot and then directly laid it down in the air. Moreover, as the horses crawled, the thunder-filled clouds also began to recede. This scene caused the white deer to be stupefied. Jianma, what the hell are you doing? Aren't you violent? Aren't you unsatisfied with my teachings? Wasn't every time he came out, he would massacre everyone around him? I'll give you a chance now. The brat in front of you is the one who wants to tame you. Can you bear it? Kill him. The white deer's eyes were somewhat flustered as it began to shout loudly. Vaguely, he looked at Long Fei, and an unimaginable result appeared in his mind. Impossible. This is going to be a huge event. He's just a piece of trash with a heavenly cultivation. How could he do that? This is impossible. Everything that had happened before his eyes showed that the horses were no longer under his control. The only possibility for this was that the horses had been tamed. However, the white deer didn't believe him at all. Right? He didn't even do anything. How could he have already tamed Jianma? I must have been overthinking it. The white deer thought to itself. Then, he forcefully suppressed the shock in his heart. He raised his hand and directly activated the power of the thunder seal to the extreme. Bill the horse, do you not want this power? If you still want to be bathed in thunder, then go and kill him, he said to the white deer. Her gloomy eyes were devilishly charming. At this time, Long Fei was also moved and looked at the white deer meaningfully. Previously, the white deer had behaved very arrogantly, but it had opened its mouth to shut it up and seek death. It seemed more like a kind of insolent maniac. But it was different now. He could feel that the white deer had already begun emitting killing intent in its heart. And the reason was obvious without even thinking about it. It must be because of the horses. But right at this moment, the horse suddenly roared. However, the target was the white deer. Roar! With a loud crash, the huge force crashed into the white deer. Rumble! The figure of the white deer was knocked backwards explosively, and his face turned incomparably gloomy. At this moment, the lightning imprint in his hand instantly turned into a ray of light that shot into the sky, directly blocking the attack of the horse. The mountain and sea sect was completely shocked by what they were seeing. It could even be described as terrifying beyond compare. Not good, this beast is crazy. It actually dares to attack little Gongzi. What's wrong with that? Quickly go and inform the elders. It's too late. Hurry up, we definitely can't let little Gongzi get hurt. All of a sudden, the disciples spoke up in panic. Not only that, there were already countless silhouettes flying in the direction of the white deer. But at this time, Jianma's eyes swept across the crowd. With a single breath, all of these disciples were sent flying and heavily fell to the ground, their fate unknown. As for the white deer, it had a calm expression on its face, as if it was completely indifferent to everything that was happening. He just looked at it coldly. It was extremely cold. But after that, the demonic charm chi on his body surged out one after another. When it exploded, he directly looked at Long Fei. It seems that you've already succeeded. The white deer lowered its voice as it spoke. His voice was extremely gloomy and cold. Combined with this evil aura, it caused one's scalp to go numb. Long Fei's mouth curved upwards, revealing a smile. However, before he could say anything, Jianma had already begun to talk. Little guy, scram to the side and play. Do you really think I care about the thing you're holding in your hand? It's just relative but the mountain and sea sect only has this much to make me feel a bit more comfortable. If you dare to be disrespectful to me again, I will crush you with a single stomp." The horse snorted. His appearance was filled with flattery. This time, it filled the white deer with hatred. "A beast is a beast," the white deer said coldly. One had to know that he had put a lot of thought into taming this horse. Even the lightning imprint in his hand was the source of the lightning lake that he had obtained from the dragon clan. The purpose was to let Jinma get close to him, but now it was direct proof. Jinma had never taken him seriously, but now he was casually tossed aside. She even treated him as a stepping stone for her heart. This kind of matter caused the white deer's self-esteem to be heavily challenged. At that moment, his fury erupted and his killing intent soared to the heavens. Long Fei was also shocked by the horse's performance. Originally, he thought that he had built a proud horse, but he never would have thought that he would be so thorough. However, thinking about it, it was not strange. After all, Long Fei controlled a power that could allow him to instantly break through the horizon and evolve to another level. Even if it was a divine beast, it was impossible for it to resist. On the other hand, Long Fei did not care about the change in the white deer's emotions at all. "Little brat, let's not talk about anything else for now. Now that the horses have been tamed by me, shouldn't the things you're talking about be fulfilled?" Long Fei said, "Killing intent? I don't care. Devilish brat, just teach him a lesson." Furthermore, he was a devilish brat with an extremely high background, so Long Fei naturally would not let him off. Redemption? Heh. No one has ever dared to ask this young master to do anything. Since you and this animal are so fated, I'll grant your wish. Now, I will give you a chance. From now on, he is my mount, and you are my tramp. If you agree, you can still survive. If you don't want to, then I'll send you to your death." The white deer proudly stated. He immediately denied everything that he had said. Or perhaps it could be said that from the beginning till the end, they had never thought that Long Fei would succeed. "So you don't want to cash in?" Long Fei was startled and said coldly, "So what? Don't forget, this is the mountain and sea sect. In the mountain and sea sect, there is no one who dares to do anything to me. Even if you succeed, so what? In front of this young master, you have no choice but to obediently be a beast king boy. Otherwise, I have to die." The white deer spoke each word with absolute certainty. However, Long Fei shook her head slightly. A devilish brat is still a devilish brat. Chapter 4463. Chapter 4463. Long Fei was not too surprised by what was happening before her eyes. To a popinjay like white deer, he had no choice but to compromise. Impossible. As for Long Fei, she had long planned to make a move. Thankfully, the entire mountain and sea sect didn't seem to care too much about the sect. Even now, it had caused such a commotion. Still no one came out. Even the guarding elder didn't show himself. And this was also more convenient for Long Fei to handle. "Teach me? Are you even qualified? Even legend-ranked disciples and 10 elders have to serve you as a treasure when you see me. You dare to attack me? How reckless!" He had made the white deer fearless, and his eyes were filled with disdain. They did not place Long Fei's words in their eyes at all. The thunder mark in his hand also began to erupt at this moment. And then the void trembled. The thunder clouds that had just dispersed gathered together once again. In the center of the cloud layer, a lightning ball was constantly releasing thunder. "Die!" The white deer immediately attacked. As the sound of his voice faded, in the air, the power of lightning erupted. Countless bolts of lightning descended in the blink of an eye, directly engulfing Long Fei within. Rumble, rumble. In the blink of an eye, there was only the berserk power of countless thunderbolts in the entire sect. It was as if someone had angered the heaven and earth and provoked the punishment of the heavens. However, no one could see it. At this time, Long Fei was safe and sound under the lightning's bombardment. This energy was also being gathered by him bit by bit. Thunder Dragon? Long Fei's heart was moved. Long ago, when Long Fei had executed the white deer's lightning mark, she had felt a kind of inexplicable sense of familiarity with it. He finally understood that the origin of this power came from the Dragon Clan. Use Dragon Race's power to target me. I'm afraid he doesn't know how to write the word die. Long Fei's eyes moved as the movements on his hand became faster and faster. Like a web, she stretched out his hands and directly grabbed the power of thunder within his hands before kneading them into a ball. So. In just a few breaths of time, all of the lightning energy in the sky was completely controlled by Long Fei and formed into a ball of lightning in her hand. In the blink of an eye, the entire mountain and sea realm was filled with shock. Everyone was shocked, including the white deer and the horse. Especially for the horses, their lazy expressions made them want to get up and kowtow to Long Fei and acknowledge him as their ancestor. As for the white deer, it widened its eyes with a look of disbelief on its face. Impossible. This is the lightning lake, you... In the end, the white deer was still just a child that had yet to leave the world. Even if it wasn't weak, it was extremely evil. In the face of Long Fei's berserk methods, she instantly lost control. As for Long Fei, she did not care about it in the slightest, nor was she polite at all. Boom! In an instant, the lightning exploded and lightning filled the sky. Tens of millions of lightning bolts directly exploded out from Long Fei's hands. Not only that, it was even more violent and tyrannical than when he used the white deer previously. No! The white deer's face suddenly changed. It let out a scream and instinctively stretched out its arm to block the attack. However, it was completely useless. The lightning that filled the skies struck down, directly engulfing the figure of the white deer. In the sky, the horse was stunned. He came to Long Fei's side. "Boss, this kid's identity isn't simple. I've followed him for so long, but I still can't figure out this brat's background. If I kill him, the entire mountain and sea sect will riot," the horse said. Long Fei's eyes were still fixed on the heart of the lightning. Others couldn't see through it, but his eyes were filled with lightning. At this moment, the white deer didn't receive any damage. In itself, his methods had never thought of taking the life of the white deer. After all, only by having someone like him in the mountain and sea sect would he be able to reach the mountain and sea sect faster. All he had to do now was to tame the white deer. Too shameless. Towards the devilish brat, Long Fei only had one word for him, and that was to submit. However, Long Fei didn't expect that the moment the power of thunder touched the white deer's body, a burst of power instantly erupted from the white deer's body. The boundless blood energy condensed and formed a layer of protection around the white deer. The power of the thunder was instantly expelled from his body. In other words, the current Jiang Bai who hadn't received any injuries at all, and Long Fei could even smell a few different auras from his power. In other words, this kind of strength wasn't something that a single person possessed. It was at least 3 people's strength. It was incomparably powerful. Could it be that the people behind this kid are the big shots of the 3 forces? You can use this amount of blood to protect a little brat. It seems the mountain and sea realm is more complicated than I thought. Long Fei's eyes flashed. She kept thinking. It was also at this time that the white deer's voice once again rang out. "Haha, I'm fine. I'm fine. Brat, you're awesome. Didn't you say that I don't know the immensity of heaven and earth? Come, let me know." He laughed and ridiculed the white deer. With regards to Long Fei, she would always ridicule Long Fei when she performed the big treasure body refinement art. Instantly, Long Fei was displeased. Since he had already made his move, how could he return empty-handed? It doesn't exist. Since you are so enthusiastic, I shall grant your wish. Do you really think this kind of power can protect you? Too young. As he said that, Long Fei's figure instantly attacked, and in that instant, his body flew through the air. The white deer didn't even have time to react before its eyes turned black, and it felt as if its entire body had lost control of itself. It was lifted up by one of Long Fei's hands into the air. Ha! A slap fell. The body of the white deer was directly slammed into the ground by Long Fei. Furthermore, the position was extremely awkward. It was as if he was teaching a lesson to a child. He directly slapped his butt. Pa pa pa. Long Fei's figure also followed closely behind as a palm fell. The white deer's face flushed, and when it raised its head, it just so happened to see the astonished gazes of the countless disciples guarding the mountain. It even felt endless grief and indignation in its heart. "Let me go," the white deer angrily roared. But Long Fei didn't care at all. She continued to move, and another slap landed. "Are you willing?" Long Fei shouted coldly. This time, that unique energy did not appear again, and what Long Fei had used was also not a fatal strength. On the contrary, it was at the stage where the white deer could bear the pressure. Thus, in the eyes of others, the current scene was akin to a parent lecturing a child. His methods were the same, slapping his butt. "Do you have the guts to let me go? We will fight to the death." The white deer deeply buried its head into the ground as it angrily bellowed. Since young, he had been the one to humiliate others. Who would dare treat him like this? For a moment, he felt extremely wronged, as if he'd been humiliated. As for Long Fei, she gave a faint smile, and then another slap fell. "Fight to the death? Do you think you have a right to say those words to me? I'm just asking you, are you convinced?" Chapter 4464. Chapter 4464. Long Fei squatted beside the white deer. His palm struck again and again, completely silencing the white deer. It only stopped after it had gritted its teeth and said nothing. "This is what we agreed upon previously. As a man, you have to honor your promise," Long Fei said. Seeing the wronged look on the white deer's face, he also felt that it was laughable in his heart. He thought to himself that he had gone too far. But then Long Fei immediately let it go. If it wasn't for the fact that he still had value in using the white deer, Long Fei wouldn't have held back. It was only a lesson now, but it was already an unofficial benevolence. "I'm still a child," he said to the white deer. Long Fei stared blankly for a moment. She had completely not expected that the white deer would actually use him to talk back to him, to talk about stuff. "Don't say that I have nothing to say. I'm just asking if you're convinced or not." Long Fei was straightforward, going straight to the point. As the white deer looked at Long Fei with a face full of hatred, its single word "me" met Long Fei's incomparably cold gaze. Instantly, the flag caved in. The words that were about to leave his mouth were swallowed back. This caused the entire mountain and sea sect to go deathly silent. In their eyes, the infernal king was an existence that they could not disobey. Yet, he was actually pressed down to the ground by a person, reckless and brutal. In their eyes, this situation was even more terrifying than the collapse of the heavens and the collapse of the earth. "We're finished. This time, we're really going against the heavens. This kid is dead. No one in the mountain and sea sect dares to treat the young master like that, right? Even legendary disciples do not have the qualifications to do so. This kid is picking up the tiger's whiskers. Just you wait. With such a large commotion, the mountain guardian elder will definitely come out." The disciples guarding the mountain all had fear in their eyes. Of course, there was also pity. In their eyes, Long Fei was definitely going to die. From the moment they entered the mountain and sea sect, they had never heard of anyone daring to provoke this little Gongzi. But now, he didn't just provoke her. He chased and attacked. This kind of action was heaven-defying. Therefore, to them, at this moment, Long Fei was just teetering on the edge of death. However, none of them dared to speak out. Who would dare to go up against a little Gongzi who had crushed them like vegetables? Now that he was violently beaten up by Long Fei, he could only hope that the guardian elder would hurry up and come out. As for Long Fei, he did not have the time to wait for so long. Even if he submitted, he still wouldn't accept it. "How about this? If you follow me, I'll give you the horse," Long Fei said. There were too many secrets on the white deer, and they could be exchanged with a divine beast for a little fellow with an extraordinary background. He wouldn't lose anything. The white deer was stunned for a moment. It glanced at the horse that was still prostrating itself in the air, eyeing him covetously. A light flashed in its eyes. "Really?" Long Fei nodded. "All right, since that's the case, It's all right for me to acknowledge you as my big brother. However, you have to tell me how you tame horses. This beast ate everything from the inside, and in the blink of an eye, it had already forgotten about me. I have to teach him a lesson, he said bitterly to the white deer. Long Fei chuckled, but her heart was sweating for the horse. Of course, as for the current-built horse, he didn't even know that Long Fei had already unknowingly sold him to a white deer. And at this time, Long Fei no longer targeted the white deer. Since he had already submitted, there was nothing left to say. With a thought, the horses were summoned over. "Boss, how is it? You didn't do anything to this brat, right?" Jima asked, still worried. "Of course, the white deer is now my little brother, just like you," Long Fei said indifferently. As he said that, Long Fei looked towards the white deer. "However, I have to hide the fact that I tamed horses. I came to the mountain and sea sect for a few matters, so I can't act too haughtily," Long Fei said. No concealment. Of course, he couldn't hide it even if he wanted to. After all, the status of the white deer was rather special. He seemed to be the young master of a guardian elder. However, Long Fei had long known about the structure of the mountain sea sect. If the white deer was just an ordinary status, how could it be possible for it to be afraid of even the outer, inner, or even the core disciples? It didn't make sense at all. Moreover, the white deer itself was emitting an evil aura. This kind of strength had already determined that he was extraordinary, and as Long Fei's voice fell, it caused the white deer to slightly freeze and looked at Long Fei with a face full of suspicion. "Hey, little boss, you aren't trying to get into trouble, are you? I'm telling you, don't be reckless. You might not be weak, but these old fellows from the mountain and sea sect have already reached the peak of their cultivation bases. Even my old man told me to hide from you old fellows." Yi Zichen spoke to the white deer with a look in his eyes. He dodged it a little. It seemed to be fear, but there was also something else in it. But Long Fei merely smiled faintly. Long Fei didn't say anything more. If that day really came, even if they were to tear each other apart, Long Fei wasn't afraid in the slightest. It could only be said that the white deer knew too little about him. Of course, this was also because Long Fei did not display too much. On the other hand, Jian Ma did not say a word. It was obvious that he was displeased with Long Fei for accepting the white deer as a lackey without a word. However, it's easy to keep a low profile. You will continue to be my little boy, and this horse will remain in its former state. The white deer suddenly said. "Sure," Long Fei said, "but if that's the case, then there's only one way left." The white deer continued. As he spoke, he looked at the horse. "What process?" Long Fei asked. He pointed to Jianma and said, "I asked him. Who knows what happened to him? Every time he came out, he would wreak havoc in the mountain sea sect. Only then would he be willing to be quiet." Long Fei also turned her gaze towards the horse, only to see the horse sneering. "Do you think that this divine beast is something that you can summon whenever you want to? Since we're out, we naturally have to vent our emotions." The horse said. Long Fei nodded and looked at the horse. The horse understood. After all, this wasn't the first time he had done this. He was already used to it. "Boss, I don't have many outer court disciples to go," Jianma said casually. He was extremely arrogant and casual. It was as if he didn't care at all. But even as he was about to make a move, he was directly stopped by Long Fei. "Outer court disciples aren't interesting. If you want to play, then play big. Coincidentally, I have a grudge with a core disciple. Go mess with him." As Long Fei said that, the idea moved, condensing Tang Ligan's figure into a horse. Isn't it just a small core disciple? He actually dared to make an enemy out of his boss. Kill him. The horse was filled with indignation. Naturally, it would not miss this opportunity to express its loyalty. And it was also at this time that Long Fei's gaze swept across them and landed in the direction of a group of gatekeeping disciples. However, before this, there is one more person that cannot be left alive, Long Fei said indifferently, her eyes focusing on Wang Shoshan. Towards this kind of person who wanted to put him to death, Long Fei would never show any mercy. The horse's gaze followed Long Fei's gaze and instantly concentrated on him. Roar. Chapter 4465. Chapter 4465. With a furious roar, Jianma took action. His figure was like a bolt of lightning, attacking in the blink of an eye. Boom! The speed was so fast that it surpassed the speed of the naked eye. With long phase current strength, she could only barely catch a glimpse of it. At this time, Wang Shoshan had just recovered from the serious injury he had received from the white deer. He knew nothing of what was happening outside. Moreover, he'd long since become accustomed to the rage of building a horse. Even if his reaction this time was extremely berserk, he wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. Boy, you can't blame me for courting death. It's better for you to die than for me. Wang Shoshan's expression was cold. No feeling. However, as soon as he finished speaking, Wang Shoshan felt that something was wrong. Because at this moment, the lightning that filled the sky and the galloping horses were all coming towards him. In a split second, Wang Shoshan was terrified. He ignored the injuries on his body and ran outside desperately. However, how could his speed be compared with a horse? The moment his body moved, his horse raised its hooves and stomped on the ground. The instant descended. Boom! Asterisk without any suspense. Wang Shoshan's body was stomped into mincemeat. Then another bolt of lightning descended, and it would be the medium, leaving nothing behind. After doing all of this, the built horse lowered its head and roared in disdain. He instantly rose into the air again, but did not return to Long Fei's side. Instead, he continued to rise into the air, with the mountain sea sect taking a deeper level. In the blink of an eye, 10,000 kilometers away. The location of the mountain and sea sect's outer sect. Countless outer court disciples had already felt the berserk aura of the horse. Not good. Something is coming from the other side of the mountain. Run quickly. A few senior brother S died last time. We cannot repeat the same mistake. Let's go. Inform the elders to seal off the outer sect. In the blink of an eye, the entire outer court was thrown into chaos. Everything was in chaos. Figures moved and spirit beasts exploded. Clearly, they already had a deep fear of building horses. Boom, boom, boom. It was also at this moment that the entire outer sect suddenly opened the protective spell formation, as if they were facing a great enemy. In an instant, rays of light filled the area and formed a protective spiritual array, enveloping everything within 1,000,000 miles. In the distance, Long Fei and the white deer were speechless when they saw this scene. He had never thought that building a horse would have such a terrifying influence. The mountain and sea sect was filled with dread. And at this moment, the horses were flying through the void, carrying with them rolling thunder and shuttling through. As for the location of the outer sect, it didn't stop at all. It was as if he had already lost interest in the outer sect. It was almost as if he had borrowed the power of the mountains and seas to pass through. Gone? Strange. Is he not going to attack our outer sect? Fuck, this horse is so heaven-defying. This direction, it's the inner sect. Instantly, raging waves of shock arose within the hearts of the outer court disciples. There was a sense of relief in his fear. This is turning the sky upside down. It's more than just overturning the heavens. It's like the mountain and sea sect doesn't even exist. It's getting more and more arrogant every time. Last time, it was still targeting our outer sect. This time, they're actually targeting the inner sect. What about next time? What about next time? Is our mountain sea sect going to be overturned by it? The outer court disciples sternly said as they looked in the direction of the horse, their hearts trembling uncontrollably. Meanwhile, in the inner sect of the mountain and sea sect, the inner sect was like a forest of the highest mountains. On the peak, the spiritual energy was so dense that it was terrifying. Even standing and breathing could be absorbed and refined. This sort of existence could be called heaven-defying, whereas tens of thousands of inner court disciples were immersed in cultivation. After all, in this world, strength was respected. However, it was at this point that a wild wind suddenly kicked up in the middle of the endless mountains and seas. The sea of clouds instantly enveloped the sky. Rumble. and then endless lightning bolts descended in an instant. Asterisk, in the intersect, in a particular mountain and sea, lightning crashed down. It crashed down in the middle of the sea, sending out 1,000 layers of waves that slammed into the heavens. Roar! The horse roared and galloped forward. Everywhere it passed, it was as if disaster was descending. Countless tall mountains collapsed. For a time, the entire inner court was in a state of panic. The other inner disciples also came out one by one. It's that little devil's divine pet. He dares to come into my inner court. Quick, invite the elders out. We can't hold on for much longer. The crowd of inner court disciples all had incomparably terrified expressions. They did not even have the courage to resist when it came to building horses. Because the horse was built, its aura was stronger than the real person's. Combined with the divine beast attribute, it could instantly kill the real person as if they were vegetables. And among them, the person with the highest cultivation was only at the adept stage. The power within couldn't be withstood at all. So. It was also at this time that one figure after another flew out of the clouds and peaks of the inner sect. A formal inner court elder. The cultivation of these elders were not weak. Each and every one of them was above the level of a real person, and some of them even had the cultivation of a supreme being. However, he still did not act rashly in the face of the berserk construction of a horse. Instead, he went all out to save the damage. In other words, he was facing the destruction of a horse. They could only passively endure. He didn't even have the courage to take the initiative to attack. We're finished. This time, our inner sect will definitely be emptied out by this beast. Damn it, after this, I must show my face to the sect master. Even if there was an elder of inner house who was unable to contain his anger and exploded with it, as if she was already on the verge of collapsing. However, before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by someone. Elderine, forget it. Since we've already made our move, we can forget about stopping this beast. But you definitely cannot anger that young ancestor. Right, let's swallow this down. Two more elder of inner house said, with faces full of helplessness. If Long Fei heard their conversation, the mysteriousness of the white deer would surely rise to yet another new level. Even the elder of inner house was afraid of this bear. He did not have the slightest bit of an elder's demeanor, which showed how much the both of them were wary of each other. At the same time, these elders also took action. However, it was not to stop the horses from being built, but to start repairing them. Rays of spirit energy surged to form defensive barriers that blocked off the power of the horses. At this point, the horses lost interest. With a flap of his wings, he once again flew higher. Instantly, the elders heaved a sigh of relief. The eyes of countless inner sect disciples lit up with hope, as if they had just been reborn from a great tribulation. Long Fei's figure just happened to pass through the void above. To the mountain and sea sect, building a horse really is a tumor. And then there's that devilish brat. To the mountain and sea sect, he's like a nightmare to everyone who sees him. Long Fei thought. However, right now, there was no time to think about such things. Following suit, the white deer soared upwards, because now the trail of the horse had disappeared. He directly entered the next level. Naturally, it was also Long Fei's current destination. That was the central region of the mountain and sea sect. Chapter 4466. Chapter 4466. The buildings of the mountain and sea realm stretched out in all directions. This was the central region of the mountain and sea sect. Countless pavilions and pavilions existed in the boundless expanse of the mountain and sea. Not only that, these pavilions were all made from smelting a supreme physique, emitting a domineering aura. In the center of this region, in a pavilion, Tang Li was swallowing the pill like crazy. Just a bit more, and I'll be able to break through. After that, I will become a new legendary disciple. You dog kill my big brother. This hatred is irreconcilable. Just you wait, once I break through, it'll be your death date. Tang Ligan's face was grim and filled with boundless hatred. He hated Long Fei to the bone marrow. Originally, He had been a conclave disciple, and his brother had been a legend in the mountains and seas, talented in just 2 days. You could say that he was a transcendent existence in the mountain and sea sect. However, all of this was because of Long Fei breaking it. Not only had he been seriously injured, he had also cut down his older brother, making him a laughingstock in the mountain and sea sect. They were even sinners. Although the upper echelons of the mountain sea sect had hidden this matter, they were still able to investigate it thoroughly. He was the culprit. If it wasn't for his big brother's master, who was also one of the 10 great elders, who saved him, he might have already been killed. Furthermore, it could be said that he had gained a blessing in disguise. Being valued highly by the elders, he had undergone a huge change in his cultivation technique and had not only fully healed his injuries. Now, it was even more so for a breakthrough. As long as he managed to achieve a breakthrough, he would be able to become a new legend. Of course, he wasn't the only one to have such a lucky chance. Since 9 legendary disciples had been killed, they naturally had to go and replenish them. Therefore, among the core disciples, only a few dozen people with the best talent were chosen. Thus, Tang Ligan began to train even more crazily. Using the resources bestowed by the elders, he was on the verge of breaking through. In fact, he was only one step away from success. He who breaks away from the truth has achieved the power of man. However, just at this moment, an explosion rang out. Terrifying, trampling power came directly from the void above. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Rumble, 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 rumble. Crash, crash, crash. The sound of the ground collapsing came crashing down. Countless buildings of the mountain sea sect were trampled into ruins. The entire pavilion of the mountain and sea began to shake violently, as if the heavens were crumbling and the earth was sinking. Even the pavilion that Tang Li was in was no exception. Puff! Instantly, Tang Ligan was affected by the power and spat out a mouthful of blood. Originally, he had already been on the verge of breaking through. He had finally found the right opportunity and was ready to push it. But he hadn't thought that he would be interrupted. Who is it? I will kill you. Break my destiny. No matter who you are, you're dead for sure. Tang Li's eyes were filled with killing intent as his eyes turned blood red. In the next moment, Tang Ligan's figure flew out of the pavilion. And what was even more unexpected was that the moment his figure appeared in the world, the pavilion he was in instantly collapsed as well. He was stomped into ruins. Tang Li's pupils moved and became incomparably gloomy and cold. Bastard, you actually dare to wreak havoc in my core region. I'm tired of you. Tang Ligan shouted in anger. He didn't care at all what kind of existence this was. He attacked directly. After all, this was the enmity of having his path severed. Whiz! Tang Ligan's eyes were bloodshot. His mind was already covered by his hatred and anger. With a sword in hand, he unleashed his cultivation base at the peak of the mortal realm. Mountain and sea cleaving. Swish! A sword shadow instantly flew up towards the sky. Roar! Jinma also roared in anger. He had never thought that someone would actually make a move. When they saw that the person who had attacked them was their target, they couldn't help but laugh. Originally, if I wanted to kill one of the conclave disciples, it would probably arouse the displeasure of the old guys from the mountain and sea sect. But it's different now. You attack first, it's only right for me to kill you. If you want to blame someone, then blame yourself for offending my boss. Jinma looked at the incoming sword light, his heart cold. In the next moment, the 2 horns on his forehead turned sinister as his entire body swooped down. As the horses were re-equipped, the endless thunder roared once again. This time, he was even more reckless in building a horse. Not to mention that this was originally Long Fei's order. In order to make Long Fei satisfied, he would also make a big fuss out of it. And now, he actually met the opponent. He didn't have any concerns at all. All of a sudden, all of the energy in the area exploded out, as if it wanted to destroy the entire heart of the mountain and sea sect. Boom, boom, boom. In the blink of an eye, the mountain and sea sect, as well as the rest of the mountains and seas, began to fall. The horses, madly charged, trampled the world and started to wreak havoc. Tang Li Gan's sword chi had long been submerged by the terrifying power of the horse. It didn't even create any ripples and was directly trampled by the horse. Tang Li Gan's expression changed. You are a divine beast from the Guardian Mountain? Tang Li Gan shouted in horror and instantly woke up from his stupor. His face was also filled with regret. One had to know that this was an existence that even his eldest brother would have to be courteous to. They even met and left while avoiding each other. Not for anything else, but because of the white deer. Of course, what was more important was the madness of the horses themselves. This sort of power was completely and utterly unstoppable against the adept. Just like now, his power had been completely annihilated, and he was unable to cause the slightest bit of damage to the horses. No, how could you dare to do that? I'm a core disciple. No, if I'm one more step away, I will become a new legend. You can't do this. Tang Li Gan was dazed on the spot as he helplessly spoke. He wanted to run away, but his strength was a joke in front of the horses. His speed was pitifully slow. It was just the time for one sentence, but he was already affected by the power of the horse. Terrifying thunderbolts descended, the force of each step heavily crashing down. No! Tang Li let out a furious roar. His face was filled with unwillingness and panic. However, all of this had no effect on building a horse. I came to kill you. If you're not happy, the boss won't be happy. If boss isn't happy, how can you give it to me? Spirit blood? How am I going to evolve? Die for me. Jiama scoffed inwardly. He was not the least bit moved by Tang Li Gan's plea for mercy. His speed increased even further, and he wanted to crush Tang Li Gan in one fell swoop. But suddenly, a flick Buddhist dust directly came out of thin air to block the attack. A strand of it quickly fell down before finally converging into a large cocoon that wrapped itself around Tang Li. Enough! Don't think that the mountain and sea sect is your backyard garden. Just because we don't want to suppress you doesn't mean that we don't have the strength to do so. Moreover, if it wasn't for that little fellow here, do you think you'd be able to live to this day with such arrogance? This old man will give you a chance. Now, scram back and obediently hide in the sea of clouds. Or else, even if you become a grand immortal, you will die. At that moment, a figure descended from the depths of the mountain and sea realm. He wore a long robe and held a dagger in his hand as he coldly spoke. Chapter 4467. Chapter 4467 in the sky. The faces of Long Fei and the white deer became slightly darker. This was an expert, at least in terms of aura. Long Fei could already feel a kind of impact. He was even slightly stronger than the Yuan Feng for back then. Compared to the avatar of Zhou, he didn't care much about it. Boss, forget it. The outer sect and the inner sect didn't really care. However, the conclave disciples had already reached the core of the mountain and sea sect, and were afraid that this old man might actually make a move. He spoke of the white deer and had thoughts of retreating. Long Fei muttered to herself, "Forget it? Non-existent." Tang Li Gan was like an invisible bomb. He wanted to find his own world within the mountain and sea sect and take the place of Chun Tsang to tread the path of immortality. He had to get rid of Tang Li Gan. Originally, Long Fei's heart did not care. At most, he would just erupt and take it head-on. But now, seeing the sudden appearance of an elder, Long Fei became even more cautious. This person was not weak. It seems that I have still underestimated the power system of this world. This person's cultivation should be at the human realm, but his battle power is comparable to the avatar of Senior Zhou. Moreover, this person isn't the only one. If I wanted to feed him, I still need to level up. Long Fei thought. Although he was fearless, this was the safest way. Furthermore, the system quest was here. If he failed to complete the quest, he would die. Naturally, Long Fei would take it seriously. Therefore, Tang Li Gan must explode. Thinking about it, Long Fei's gaze turned towards the horses. Kill him. Simple and crude. 3 words. Initially, Jia was still hesitating. After all, the person in front of him was a powerful figure, and he was under a lot of pressure when facing him. But now, he had received Long Fei's orders once again. There was no longer any hesitation in his heart. In a split second, he roared angrily at the old man. "Old thing, don't be so arrogant. Are you sure you dare to provoke a grand general? Or did you dare to offend that little fellow? You don't even dare to do anything. What are you pretending for? To tell you the truth, it was that little fellow who asked me to kill this fellow. Jim, I didn't care about it all. He just directly carried the white deer in a handsome pot." Instantly, the mountain and sea sect elder stared in shock. He stared at the horse with hatred. If he could, he really would like to make a move. However, he really didn't dare to. Regardless of whether he wanted to admit it or not, he was powerless to refute it. But then, the elder said, "So what? Don't forget, this is the mountain and sea sect. If you dare to make a move today, I will suppress you." The mountain and sea sect elder said harshly. At this time, Tang Ligan also found a way to live. His face was full of excitement. "Master, save me. This beast is too lawless. I must suppress him. Today he dared to kill my core. Tomorrow, he dared to kill a legend. I will not let him off. He thinks that the little devil is behind everything, and yet he doesn't do anything to us. He simply doesn't put the mountain and sea sect in his eyes." Tang Ligan crazily said. He released all the hatred in his heart at once. He was already on the verge of a breakthrough. If it weren't for the fact that he was ambushed, he would have become a legendary disciple. But now, everything had been destroyed. It's all because of the madness of horse building. It could be said that the hatred in his heart towards building a horse and suppressing the white deer had already surpassed Long Fei's. Of course, if he knew that Long Fei was behind all of this, he would probably go and look for Long Fei at all cost, even at the cost of his life. However, he no longer had that chance. At this moment, when the Mountain Sea Sect's elder heard Tang Li's words, his face became increasingly gloomy and cold. Even the way he looked at the horse was filled with killing intent. In an instant, the warhorse's body tightened and it hesitated. But when he thought about Long Fei's words, his eyes swept, and with a leap, he erupted. Boom! Boom! This time, they had put all their effort into building a horse. Whether in terms of speed or strength, it was not something that could be compared. It was also at this time that the horse made its move. A large swath of the buildings in the mountain and sea realm collapsed, and all of the conclave disciples who were in secluded meditation were alarmed. He glared. However, when they saw the horse being built amidst their irritation, they instantly lost their temper. Damn it, I'm only a sliver away from breaking through. Can anyone tell me what's going on? Why is this animal so irritable this time? The faces of the core disciples were filled with endless anger as they asked. At this time, a disciple who had already been affected walked out and said with a face full of hatred, "I heard it, it's Tang Ligan. This horse was built under the orders of the little devil of the Guardian Mountain Branch to clean up Tang Ligan's territory. Although we say that the culprit is that little devil, if it wasn't for Tang Ligan, we wouldn't have been affected. They deserve to die." The disciples' eyes were filled with hatred. It was obvious that he hated Tang Ligan. They thought that if Tang Ligan hadn't offended the white deer, they wouldn't have been implicated. Instantly, the disciples' words caused a huge commotion. Tang Ligan? This dog, he might have done it on purpose, wanted to interfere with our breakthrough. Elder Shanhai, give us an explanation. Even if you want to take him as your apprentice, you can't. Right, we are unwilling. Otherwise, we would have broken through by now as well. All these core disciples originally had the opportunity to compete for the legend. But now that hope had been shattered. At the same time, the Mountain Sea Elder also heard these words, and his face became even more gloomy. He was just about to take Tang Lichuan as his disciple and pave the way for him to become a legendary disciple. But he didn't expect that something like this would actually happen. In an instant, the decision in his heart was confirmed. That was, no matter what, he had to protect Tang Lichuan or even cut off his horse so that he could maintain his prestige in the sect. With that thought, the Mountain and Sea Elder's eyes flickered and killing intent exploded out. A single wave of his sword descended, which once again dragged down Lord Jian and his horse. Evil creature, it doesn't matter whose idea it was today. If we cause chaos, the mountain and sea sect will definitely die. I'm going to behead you today because of the prestige of our mountain and sea realm." The mountain sea elder let out a cold snort, and the power in his hands continued to increase. Roar! The horses roared and struggled. Boom! 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 Under the power of the horses, the hair of the divine beast that was being swung by the horse was instantly torn apart. "Old thing, you can't stop me. Today, this kid can't save anyone," the horse said coldly. Then, he struggled even harder. As soon as the words left his mouth, the mountain and sea elders' faces fell. He was one of the 10 elders of the mountain and sea sect, and now that he was humiliated by a divine beast in front of so many disciples, how could he stand it? When he felt the power of the horse, his heart sank to the bottom. What a strong beast. If I don't suppress them today, then perhaps the next time will be something that even I will find difficult to control. The mountain and sea elder thought to himself. And then the mountain sea elder made up his mind. His hand quickly formed a seal. The mountains and seas have 10 daos, kill across 10,000 kilometers in the air. Chapter 4468. Chapter 4468. Instantly, the color of the sky changed. The 10,000 kilometers in the skies were completely covered with killing intent. The difference between the mountains and seas was like a qualitative killing intent. In the blink of an eye, the mountain and sea realm had gathered together and could slay any enemy. Boom, boom, boom. Endless pressure came sweeping over at this moment. Puff, puff, puff. It was also at this moment that the thundercloud that had built the horse was directly destroyed. As the mountains and seas surged, they vanished into thin air. Not only that, even the body of the horse that was built came to a sudden stop in midair. It was as if he was suffering an incomparable pain. He howled in incomparable pain. "You old bastard, you're actually going to use the mountain and sea sect's divine abilities to deal with me? Aren't you afraid of triggering the immortal opening road to descend earlier?" The built horse roared, and his entire body went into a crazed state. On both their wings and horns, cold glints were repeatedly flickering. As for the glows, they stirred up the wind and clouds in the world, causing the sea of clouds to churn endlessly. However, this power couldn't stop the pressure of the void that suddenly appeared. So what? You repeatedly assaulted the mountain and sea sect, but didn't suppress you. Today, no one will be able to protect you. The mountain and sea elders were exceptionally resolute. It was as though he had already made up his mind to suppress the horse. Below, Tang Ligan's face instantly revealed a trace of excitement. It was like a sickly state, showing a strange feeling of pleasure. "Ha ha ha, that's how it should be. Elder, behead this beast. By refining his power, my juniors and I will be able to level up once more. At that time, we will also be able to become the best again." Tang Ligan said. On one hand, it was to win over the hearts of the people and calm their anger. On one hand, he wanted these people to be on the same side as him, so that they wouldn't cause trouble for the white deer when the time came. At that time, all they had to do was raise their cultivation and become legends. Even if White Deer was the Demon King, he wouldn't dare to do anything to them in broad daylight. As expected, the moment Tang Ligan's voice fell, the several core disciples' eyes lit up. They had personally witnessed the power of horses. If they were able to refine their power, they would definitely be able to continue their closed-door cultivation and achieve a breakthrough. Compared to the power they had gained from building horses, the power they had cultivated in was nothing but trash. In that instant, the disciples looked over at the mountain and sea elder, their eyes shining with anticipation. And at this time, Long Fei and the white deer in the sky slightly paused. Especially the white deer, its aura once again became incomparably evil. His pupils constricted and the whites in his eyes disappeared. He had become a black hole through and through. A boundless and ruthless aura exploded from his body. Without even waiting for Long Fei to speak, she took the initiative to submit. "Boss, just wait here, I will make my move." "I won't do anything. They don't know how many eyes Prince Ma has left. The white deer spoke in a low voice. It was obvious that it was enraged. Initially, he had thought that this was just a joke, but since Long Fei insisted on it, he naturally would not let Long Fei down. After all, he had already acknowledged her as his boss. He might have mixed the white deer into the world, but he was completely convinced of Long Fei's power. It took him only a few minutes to make a horse, and this method was something he desperately wanted. Therefore, when Long Fei decided to kill Tang Ligan, he no longer had any hesitation and no longer opened his mouth to persuade her. But he hadn't thought that he would be slapped in the face. In the past, there wasn't even a single person who dared to open their mouths to resist, much less resist. But now, if he were to open his mouth and suppress it, if he were to retort, he would be beheaded. Would he still need to refine it? It was enough to break the bottom line in the white deer's heart time and time again. He could back down, but he would not accept resistance. This was him. In the blink of an eye, the figure of the white deer descended from the skies, arriving beside the horse. With a wave of his hand, Elder Shan Shan's hand was grabbed by Elder Shan's flick, and he suddenly pulled. Bam! 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 Sigh! Asterisk in the blink of an eye. Countless flames appeared and burnt all of the divine beast's hair. Boom! Asterisk roar. At this point, Jinma also broke free, baring its teeth and glaring angrily at the Mountain Sea Elder. The Mountain Sea Elder's countenance turned incomparably ugly to behold. He had never expected that this time around, Bai Lu Yi would be the one to make a move. Guarding Mountain Branch. What are you trying to do? General, what are you trying to do? Could it be that there's a conspiracy behind all of this? Don't tell me you want to break all ties with the Mountain and Sea sect? The Mountain and Sea Elder's hearts filled with anxiety. Too strange. As far as he was concerned, all of this seemed to have been planned for a long time. Thinking up to this point, the Mountain and Sea Elder looked at the white deer, his eyes filled with ill intent. Little Gongzi, I respect your father for being a meritorious general of the Mountain and Sea realm, so I allow you to cause trouble. But this time I can't. The Mountain and Sea Elder said resolutely. He had a resolute expression on his face. It was as if he was prepared to tear apart their relationship. The white deer looked back at the Mountain and Sea Elder, and then let out a cold laugh. No, Wang Yudong, you take yourself too seriously. If you say no, then no. Then where can I put my face? Don't forget, if it weren't for my old man, the Mountain and Sea sect would have been destroyed long ago. So what if I killed a core disciple? Who would dare to fart even after exterminating the entire Mountain and Sea pavilion? He also got rid of the white deer. Anyway, things had gotten to this point. At most, it would just get bigger. As soon as the words were out of his mouth, the entire Mountain and Sea realm fell silent. His calmness was terrifying. In the air, Long Fei also saw something strange. Too arrogant. Long Fei had always been an arrogant guy. However, his arrogance was based on his own strength. However, the white deer was different. It directly appeared in the new horizon while acting tough. In a word, straight to the point. Who would dare to fart? It was a perfect illustration of what it meant to be overbearing. At the same time, the white deer's words had also made Long Fei more concerned. To be able to say such words, it clearly showed that he had a trump card up his sleeve. Otherwise, how would ordinary people dare to go against the Mountain Sea Sect's elders? This guardian, I'm afraid it's not as simple as I thought. Long Fei thought. Generally speaking, the guardian of Mountain was a gatekeeper, while the guardian elder was at most a security chief. But now, from the words of the white deer, it could be seen that it was not that simple. There was also the expression of an elder of the Mountain and Sea sect, as if he still wanted to urge him to stay, as well as to resolve the situation with the white deer without offending him. This only served to illustrate a few more points. Thinking of this, Long Fei continued to control the power of creation, changing the power of his flesh, and completely merging them into the void. If he didn't want to, as long as his physical strength didn't reach such a level, she wouldn't be able to discover it. At this moment, below him, the Mountain Sea Pavilion fell into an extremely grave and solemn atmosphere. Even though the Mountain Sea Elders did not retreat, they did not dare to make a move. However, the white deer refused to give up. What is it? Do you think that you can't accept it? If you're not convinced, then show it to me. I want to see if my old man can suppress you. He said to the white deer. Disdain was written all over his face. Even the 10 elders were nothing in his eyes. Chapter 4469. Chapter 4469. At the side, Tang Ligan was already trembling with fear. He could not utter a single word. The high and mighty spirit from earlier was completely unable to be seen now. Facing the incomparably strong white deer, Tang Ligan's eyes were filled with fear. As for the mountain and sea elders, they were none other than Wang Yudong. At this moment, his face was ashen as he looked angrily at the white deer, but he didn't dare to flare up. It was as if he had eaten **T. Wang Yudong, your grandpa has spoken. Either he dies, or there will be a complete uproar. You can choose, he said to the white deer. His expression was incomparably wild. Adding on this evil aura, it gave people a kind of oppressive feeling. No one in the pavilion dared to speak a word. It was also at this time that the horse withdrew its gaze, locked its gaze onto Tang Ligan, and roared angrily as it once again stomped forward. Boom! In the blink of an eye, Tang Ligan collapsed onto the ground. All kinds of oppression, from hell to heaven, and from heaven to the abyss of death, made his fighting spirit disappear. No, don't kill me. I'll give you anything you want. As long as I live, then even if I have to leave the mountain and sea sect, I will give up. Elder Master, save me. Tang Ligan directly confessed and began to plead for mercy. However, the white deer was even more stupid and disdainful. It didn't even bother to take a glance at it. On the contrary, he patted the horse, indicating that the horse should be as it pleases. Jianma growled, as if unwilling to let the white deer touch it. However, when he thought about how he had saved the white deer earlier, he stopped struggling. The white deer felt a surge of joy and continued to stroke the horse proudly. That's right. In the future, be obedient and follow me. I promise you, I'll definitely make you the #1 beast of the immortal Pond Continent, he said to the white deer. But Jianma cast a contemptuous squint at him. Previously, when he had said those words to the white deer, it had moved his heart. But with Long Fei here, why would they need to use the white deer? There was no temptation at all. However, Tang Li's killing intent still surged. Then, he looked towards Wang Yudong. Old thing, you can't kill him, right? Today, I will annihilate him here. Let's see what you can do. In an instant, Jian Cheng jumped down from the horse, and a powerful force burst out from its front hooves. Boom! The built horse instantly charged downwards and broke through layer after layer of obstructions. It was at this moment that, thousands of miles above the void, the power of Wang Yudong erupted once more. Shwa shwa shwa. Sharp killing intent descended one after another. He once again blocked the figure of the horse. With this elder here, no one can kill him today. You want to kill across the skies. That's simple. Is the Tao of the mountains and seas something a beast like you can fight against? Wang Yudong said with a deep voice. His face was cold. Wang Yudong, your ancestor will be in the future. Are you saying that you're planning to fight to the end with this young master? The white deer was also stunned. His face was burning. He had thought that his high profile, just now, was enough to scare him off. Unexpectedly, in the end, he chose to take action. Tell us less about the white deer that year. If it weren't for that, do you think the entire mountain and sea sect would get used to you? Now, the mountain and sea sect has done its best to show benevolence. Even if the Grand Immortal comes, I'll just say the same thing. No one is allowed to cause trouble for the mountain and sea sect. Wang Yudong was resolute. At the same time, as his voice fell, the entire space was filled with killing intent. Not only that, this killing intent was extremely berserk, suppressing all auras of power. It was as if there was a law that was above all other powers, revolving within it. Puff, puff. Because he had used too much strength, he wanted to put Tang Ligan to death. As a result, under the influence of this aura, he was also directly suppressed by this aura. His body couldn't help but bend. Roar. The horse roared. It was an incomparable grievance. He thought that with the arrival of the white deer, the dust had settled. However, he had not expected that this time, Wang Yudong would be so domineering that he would not even bother to look at the white deer. He had even made a move against it. At the same time, the smile on the white deer's face was instantly wiped away. Wang Yudong, you're forcing your father, he whispered to the white deer, and then his eyes flashed, and his hands exploded into the air. Walala! When the white deer's firepower was fully unleashed, its entire body was like a burning giant, its entire body surging and releasing an evil blue light. In the blink of an eye, he had shot straight up to the sky. Boom, boom, boom. Following that, the killing intent that had filled the air for thousands of li was engulfed by the light. Not even dregs were left. At that moment, he was stunned. He simply did not believe that his killing move could suppress the power of a real person, a horse that was comparable to a human. And yet, he had been defeated by a mere adept. It's impossible that this is the great Tao of the mountain and sea realm. You're only in the Tao realm of the Tao realm. How could you possibly break my Taoist magic? This is impossible. Wang Yudong felt that he was in a bad mood. He even felt a strong sense of crisis. For a moment, the look in his eyes changed when he looked at the white deer. From fear to hesitation. He was instantly filled with killing intent. In other words, the current him had already developed a killing intent towards the white deer. In the sky, Long Fei's gaze also froze. So awesome. Long Fei couldn't help but exclaim. He had guessed that the white deer would not be simple. However, he didn't expect the white deer to be so violent. With a flip of its hand, it could unleash a move from Sun Yudong. At the same time, the killing intent that erupted from Wang Yudong could not escape Long Fei's perception. After all, no one would allow a person who could easily destroy his own methods. Damn it, we've already reached this stage. If that's the case, then let's just do it. If there's no other way, we can just directly take action and fight. Long Fei thought. Originally, he wanted to do something big. On one hand, he would push out the white deer and secretly develop it for himself. However, things had already reached an irreversible stage. He had already exposed himself to the white deer. Moreover, this kind of power could directly crush 10 great elders' super Tao techniques. This kind of strength could be called heaven-defying, and Long Fei had never abandoned her own people. Since she had already called the white deer her boss, then even if he were to be exposed, Long Fei had to protect him. At this moment, it was as if the white deer had become a completely different person. In the midst of all the evil spirits, there was an incomparable malevolence. His face was also covered by a green light. Only his eyes emitted an evil aura that captivated the soul. Come on, you want to kill me, right? Take care of me? Do you really think that this young master needs you to get used to it? Come, don't be terrified. Today, I will set up a show to overturn this core region. Each of you is one. Fight if you don't want to. As the white deer spoke, its eyes flickered with a sinister light. At this time, each and every one of these core disciples had their heads bowed. They didn't even dare to meet the eyes of the white deer. It was also at this time that the white deer's gaze locked onto Tang Ligon. The corner of its mouth curled up. We must die. Chapter 4470. Chapter 4470. The white deer said silently. Even now, the determination in his heart to kill Tang Liwen remained unchanged. At this moment, Long Fei, who was in the air, felt inexplicably touched in her heart. At the same time, he secretly made up his mind to protect the two masters no matter what. However, right at this moment, figures suddenly descended from the sky one by one. 9 people descended. They were none other than the top 10 elders of the Mountain and Sea sect. With the addition of Wang Yudong, there wasn't a lot of them. What an arrogant brat. You dare to threaten to overturn my Mountain Sea sect. Is this how the Grand General Immortal taught you? You simply don't know your own limits. Even my Mountain Sea sect's tens of thousands of years of legacy is something that a brat like you, who's still wet behind the ears, can provoke? If it weren't for the kindness of the mountain and sea sect, do you think you would have acted so arrogantly in the mountain and sea sect? The 9 people opened their mouths one after another, but there was only one meaning behind their words. That was disdain. They looked as if they were on high, as if what they had done before was a gift. The corners of his lips curled up into a smile. Ha ha, everyone, you've come at the perfect time. Otherwise, the dignity of our mountain and sea sect will be completely destroyed by this little bastard who doesn't even know how to live. Wang Yudong laughed. At first, his heart was already filled with killing intent towards the white deer. However, he truly didn't dare to act against the white deer alone. Now that the other 9 elders had arrived, his heart was filled with confidence. At this moment, the Jianma's pupils constricted. I didn't expect these old things to come out. Little fellow, things are not going well. You should leave first. The horse whispered to the white deer. The white deer froze for a moment before a trace of clarity returned to its evil eyes. But it was only for a moment, and the evil chi surged again in his eyes. Go! Impossible. So far, there are only 2 people in this world who have said that I don't know my place. One is my old man, the other is my boss. As for you 2, you think you are worthy? As he spoke, beams of azure light swirled in his evil eyes. The horse was stunned. Kid, now is not the time to show off. If something were to happen to you, then the heavens of the mountain and sea sect would truly be toppled. The horse said. He was also extremely depressed in his heart. In the past, he would easily crush a few disciples, but it wasn't a big deal. There were even a handful of conclave disciples in the mountain and sea sect. After all, the mountain and sea sect was packed full of people. As long as a talented disciple was groomed, it would be a walk in the park. Although core disciples were hard to come by, it wasn't impossible to nurture them. Therefore, he also couldn't understand what was going on. He had no idea that, all of a sudden, the mountain and sea sect would come out to fight back. Moreover, they were unstoppable. Even the 10 great elders were mobilized. Of course, if he knew that 9 of the top 10 legends in the mountain and sea sect had already been killed by Long Fei, it wouldn't be hard to understand why the mountain and sea sect would pay so much attention to their conclave disciples. Overturn the heavens. Don't worry, with just the 10 of them, the heavens won't be able to do anything. The white deer, however, had a face full of confidence as it swore solemnly. It was as if he didn't care at all. Even the top 10 elders of the mountain and sea sect didn't take it to heart. As soon as he finished, the 10 of them were enraged. Who were they? The highest level of power in the mountain and sea sect was dominating heaven and earth. With their power, they stood at the pinnacle of the entire prehistoric land. But now, he had been belittled by the white deer to no avail. Impudent, you little bastard who relies on your father's arrogance. What do you know? We are not worthy. Today I'll let you know what a powerhouse is. Suddenly, one of the 10 elders spoke up. This person was none other than the great elder of the 10 elders, Yang Mansion. The power of karmic luck and karmic luck was unfathomable. It could be said that his strength was the strongest out of the 10 people present. Even the mountain and sea realm's #1 legend, Chu Shan, had been personally taught by him, and then personally instructed by the sect's grand elder. From this, it could be seen how powerful his strength was. As he spoke, his body crashed down from the sky. He headed straight for the white deer. Instantly, the space within a 5,000-kilometer radius around the white deer cracked. Puff! Roar! In an instant, the body of the horse was blasted away, unable to withstand the impact. However, what surprised him was that the white deer did not move at all, directly resisting this kind of power. It seems that the heavy immortal has put quite a bit of effort on you all these years. However, that's all. Get down. Yang Ji sneered. Under his palm, a boom was produced, and the power within his palm increased at a speed visible to the naked eye. Double, triple, quadruple. In just a few breaths' time, the strength of this palm increased by 4 times. Endless pressure came crashing down, enveloping the top of the white deer's head. At this moment, the white deer was finally unable to endure any longer, and the azure light surrounding it immediately collapsed. Puff! After spitting out a mouthful of blood, the evil aura in the white deer's eyes disappeared. Yongli, you old bastard. If you have the guts, then kill me. Otherwise, I swear I will cut you into 8 pieces. The white deer refused to budge. He scolded angrily. You think you still have a chance? Today, 10 of us have appeared, all for the purpose of suppressing the great immortal, and letting him know that this is the mountain and sea sect. And you will surely be suppressed. Even if I don't kill you, I will suppress you for tens of thousands of years. When that time comes, do you still have the qualifications to stand in front of me? Wishful thinking, Yongli viciously said. His eyes were filled with incomparable pride. With a single step, he pierced through the heavens and earth, wanting to suppress the white deer. And at this time, Long Fei, who was in the sky, was no longer able to suppress the rage in her heart. Damn it, I can't tolerate it. Long Fei's mind moved, the qi around her body gradually recovered, and she was about to make her move. However, right at that moment, a beam of light pierced through the horizon. His speed was even faster than Long Fei's, as he directly descended in front of the white deer. Instantly, Long Fei also stopped in her tracks. At this moment, a hint of confusion finally appeared in the eyes of the white deer, and a smile appeared on its face as well. Old man, you've finally come. If I didn't come, I would have been toyed to death by this old thing. The white deer raised its head and said. In front of him, a figure instantly walked out from the white light. Dressed in a black robe, he stood with his hands behind his back. Play you to death? They do not dare and do not deserve it. The grand immortal Jiang said calmly. Then his eyes flickered as he looked over the 10 elders of the mountain and sea sect. Suppress my son? You think you're qualified? As he spoke, he flicked his long sleeve. Boom! All of a sudden, all the 2 pieces that had come out of the ground crumbled and vanished in a thin air. Stomp! Stomp! He took 3 steps back, and his aura became chaotic. Big brother, senior brother, General Immortal, you're too presumptuous. In an instant, the 10 elders were thrown into chaos. He never would have thought that the heavy immortal would actually appear. Most importantly, Jiang Qisha was simply outrageously powerful at this moment. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Chapter 4471. Chapter 4471, Domineering and Arrogant. When that true, invincible attitude descended, it was as if in front of him, there were no top 10 elders of the mountain and sea sect, but rather some random passers-by who could be destroyed at will. In the air, Long Fei was also holding back the impulse to attack. It was incomparably shocking. Mother of asterisk her, he oppressed the mountain and sea elders like a dog? Does it have to be so violent? With this kind of strength, who else could possibly stop him? Long Fei thought. The moment he made his move, Long Fei had already seen through it. Terrifying strength. They were far, far beyond the top 10 elders of the mountain and sea sect. They were not on the same level. If the 10 elders of the mountain sea sect were compared to a rider on a motorbike, then the heavy immortal would just be driving a tank. There was simply no way to compare them. Even Long Fei secretly compared this in her heart. With his current cultivation, even if he had to use all his firepower, it would be useless against a grand immortal. Unless he could still use the 3rd blade of the god of boundary. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to face him head-on. What Long Fei did not expect was that the development of the situation was rather big. He had never thought that it would have developed to such an extent. Originally, they only wanted to kill Tang Ligan, but they didn't manage to do it. Now even the big shots from all sides had appeared. And at this time, following the appearance of the heavy immortal, the atmosphere also became strange. The expressions of the 10 elders changed completely. Even though they were clamoring in anger, when facing the real heavy immortal general, they instantly lost their temper. That was because Yang Ri was the strongest amongst them, but he died just like that. He couldn't even block a single blow from the Grand Immortal. General, what are you trying to do? You should know that this is all your son's doing. What? All those years ago, you turned the tides and blocked the power of the devil since mystery to protect the mountain and sea sect. Are you going to destroy it now? Yang Zhao roared in rage. His expression was incomparably ugly. At this moment, he was being forced back by the heavy immortal and was a little embarrassed. No matter what, he was one of the 10 great elders. Why would he be humiliated like this? That's right, he's an immortal. Don't forget that this is the mountain and sea sect. If it weren't for the fact that you served the mountain and sea sect all those years ago, how could you have allowed this bastard to do something like this? He would never have refused anything he did. Jiang Zhong, I'll give you face today. Let's just forget about this matter. How about it? Wang Yudong also said. Now, he was afraid in his heart. It was impossible for them to even touch the strength of a heavy immortal. A single glance was enough to tell him that this was a leopard. To be able to force back a man with a casual move, it would be the same if he used it on them. Thus, right now, he wanted to retreat and let the matter rest. Unfortunately, they were thinking too much, only to see a faint smile appearing on the corners of Jiang Zhong's mouth as he calmly replied, "Forget it. Didn't you get up early to look in the mirror? She looks so ugly, so beautiful." He spoke word by word. In that moment, his face darkened, turning ashen. In this world where only martial arts mattered, there had never been anyone who cared about appearances. Therefore, over the years, no one had ever dared to joke about his appearance. A grand general. His voice was like the grinding of pig iron, cold and detached. No need to look so bitter and vengeful. Laozi is right here. If you want to fight, just come up. The grand immortal Jiang said calmly. However, his words caused Wang Yudong to awaken. Make a move? How is this possible? Even Yang Li was defeated in one move. Why did he have to make a move? Moreover, the attack he used to kill a heavy immortal was simply a casual action. Such strength was displayed right here. If the Grand Immortals were truly enraged, let alone fighting, they wouldn't even have the courage to speak out. He's a great immortal. Why must he do this? It's not a big deal. We're all members of the Mountain and Sea sect. Honor and disgrace go hand in hand. To harm our relationship over such a small matter, it's not worth it. Right, in my opinion, let's just forget about it. All the elders spoke out. The Grand Immortals remained silent. They didn't have any intention of giving up at all. It was also at this time that the white deer took a step forward. Forget it. Since things have come to this point, let's just forget it and forget it. Impossible. Forget it if you want to. However, we must die. The white deer spoke coldly. He didn't know why Long Fei had to kill Tang Ligan. But since it was Long Fei who wanted to kill him, then this person definitely had a reason to die. Since he had already recognized Long Fei as his boss, then Tang Ligan was someone who must die. In an instant, Tang Ligan's face turned ashen. Staring at the white deer, he could not understand why it had to kill him. No, I can't accept this, little Gongzi. I've never offended you before. Why must you kill me? I'll follow your lead from now on. Don't kill me, okay? Right? Don't you still lack a little beast tamer? I'll be your boy. The white deer spoke crazily. He didn't want to die. He didn't want to die at all. At this moment, what core disciples, what people advanced to, were no longer important. In the face of life and death, all divine horses were like floating clouds. And at this time, Long Fei, who was in the air, had a thought. Even if you die, I'll make sure you die to let you understand. With that thought, Long Fei's figure moved and directly descended from the sky. In a single step, she arrived in front of Tang Ligan. Tang Ligan's face was filled with terror. Then he seemed to have thought of something. However, before he could finish his words, he felt a great pressure pressing down on him. His hands struggled desperately, but to no avail. He could not say a single word. One must know that since Long Fei had already appeared, she was definitely well prepared. Can you wait for him to continue speaking? Impossible. Following that, Long Fei did not wait for everyone to react and directly moved. She grabbed Tang Ligan's neck and exerted a bit of force. End it. Roar. It was also at this time that the established horse roared and came to stand in front of Long Fei. Stop messing around. There are so many people. Long Fei casually said. And then to the white deer, "Little Gongzi, this kid is already dead. Otherwise, is this matter really over?" Long Fei asked. His goal was the path to immortality. Now that Tang Ligon was dead, no one in the mountain and sea sect knew about him, and they could proceed with their plans without worry. The white deer was startled. After hearing Long Fei's words, it instinctively nodded and said, "Humph, since this kid is already dead, let's just forget about this matter." The white deer proudly raised its head. Yang Li and the others had faces full of hatred. 10 people appeared in succession in order to protect Tang Ligon. But now, they had never thought that they would be killed by someone they had never seen before. Even the Grand Immortals were frantically trying to stop him. And now he was killed by Long Fei? To them, this was an extraordinary shame and humiliation. With just a thought, Yang Li's gaze immediately locked on a Long Fei. "Forget it, that's fine, but he must die." Chapter 4472. Chapter 4472. Long Fei was startled, and her eyes focused. He wanted to settle this matter for the sake of his own mission. He had not expected that the other party would actually direct the spearhead at him. In short, the other party had already lost face and did not want to easily step down from the stage. He was prepared to look for Long Fei, this soft persimmon, to pinch his face and earn him enough face before he left. After all, even though core disciples were important, it wasn't to the point of them risking their lives to protect them. In the end, it was all for the sake of face. Unfortunately, they didn't know that the soft persimmon in their eyes was tougher than them. In the blink of an eye, both the white deer and the Jianma were enraged. "Old thing, what did you say?" The horse roared in anger. Previously, he had kept a distance from these old antiques of the mountain and sea sect, not wanting to provoke them. But unexpectedly, the other party had set their sights on Long Fei, and that was unbearable. The white deer was even more direct as it turned to look at the Grand Immortal. "Father, kill this old fellow." Long Fei, however, did not move. Looking at the attitude of the white deer, her heart warmed. "I used to think that he was a devilish brat, but I didn't expect him to be a young man with 3 views of the world. Not bad, I like it," Long Fei thought. At this moment, the words of the white deer had changed the entire situation. Even when he was injured previously, he did not cause such a huge commotion. But now, it had directly opened its mouth to kill. It could be seen how important Long Fei was to him. All of a sudden, the 10 elders of the mountain and sea sect looked at Long Fei, their eyes filled with disbelief. "Who is this kid? I've never seen it before. Why does this little bastard care about it so much? What should we do? What do we do? Are we really going to swallow this humiliation?" The 10 elders communicated mentally to each other. Their daily cultivation had long since been implicated by a similar bond in their hearts. There was nothing else because they cultivated the great Tao of the mountains and seas. One choice for one, 10 people for 10. Therefore, at this moment, even Long Fei and Jiang Zhongxian could not see anything wrong with the sound transmission. Wang Yudong's face was filled with worry. With the power of a heavy, immortal here, they didn't dare to make a move. However, if they were to withdraw like this, their prestige would sweep the ground in the future. It was likely that their influence in the sect would not be small. Yangji was the same. However, he was the leader of the 10, so he didn't show any signs of panic. Instead, he looked at the Grand Immortals. "General, what do you think? Do you want to fight with us over a completely unrelated person?" Yang Li coldly said. His tone was even more serious than before, as if he was driving with his life on the line. At this time, Jiang Zhongxian also looked towards Long Fei, full of playfulness. Then, the sound fell. "I don't care about this, but don't blame me for not reminding you. Watch out for yourself." Jiang Zhong Immortal had a face full of laughter, but it was filled with scorn and arrogance. Only, when he looked at Long Fei, he was even more curious, as if he wanted to see through Long Fei. Swish! Instantly, a strange feeling emerged in Long Fei's heart. Being stared at in such a way by the heavy immortal, he felt as if his entire body was being exposed, as if he was standing naked in front of the other party. Extremely displeased. "Damn, Could it be that this guy saw through something? Long Fei's heartbeat sped up. The cultivation of a heavy immortal was simply too strong. Although he was the father of the white deer, in the end he was still a guardian elder of the Mountain Sea sect. Even Long Fei wouldn't believe that he did not notice the great immortal when he caused such a ruckus in the guardian mountain branch. Furthermore, since he knew that he was only at the immortal realm, and yet didn't even make the slightest movement, he must have his own plans. Something abnormal must have happened. Long Fei's heart heavily shook, and there were some changes in the expression in her eyes. But at this moment, the white deer was in a mess. "No, Dad, he's the boss." The white deer was flustered as it spoke. From his point of view, even though Long Fei had a few tricks up his sleeves, he was not a match for these old fellows. After all, even with his unique strength, he wouldn't be able to hold on for long in front of these old fellows. If Long Fei had to face these few people alone, he did not believe that Long Fei could do it. However, Zhang Zhong did not care about it at all. "Since you're already calling him boss, I have to see if he has the qualifications." The white deer's expression changed, and it still wanted to say something, but it was stopped by the heavy immortal. As for building horses, he wasn't worried at all. "Boss, you can do it. Let's finish off this bunch of old geezers." Jima took a deep breath, and a bolt of lightning split the air, blasting into the void. Seeing that it was none of Long Fei's business, Long Fei pulled the white deer, who was retreating towards him, as though there were thousands of mud horses howling in his heart. His intuition told him that he had purposefully become a grand immortal on purpose, so that he would have to go through all this trouble on purpose. Or perhaps it could be said that from the moment the great immortal made his move, he had never wanted Long Fei to be left alone. The words of Jiang Zhongxian also caused the 10 elders' faces to shine with excitement. "Boss, it seems like you're the one behind this beast and little Gongzi. You despicable man. How dare you attack a disciple of the Mountain and Sea sect? You must have a heart of a cheetah's guts. Umph! You ate a dragon's gall that covered the sky, and now you dare to behave atrociously in the Mountain and Sea sect?" The Mountain and Sea elders looked as if they had eaten a pill, their faces filled with ferocity and killing intent. It looked like it wouldn't rest until one of them died. Long Fei, however, shook her head slightly. "Why? Didn't you think that if you were to be killed by me, where will the Mountain Sea sect hide its face in the future?" Long Fei asked indifferently. For him, the task was more important than anything else. Everything he did was to avoid trouble. Arrogant. Arrogant. You dare to act so arrogantly in front of us? Killing you like you're a dog would be as easy as slaying a dog. With Wang Yudong in the lead, the 10 great elders began to berate him. As far as they were concerned, if a Long Fei didn't have the support of a heavy immortal, then they wouldn't even need to put him in their eyes. This was especially true for Wang Yudong, who was eager to give it a try, because just now he had been completely humiliated by the white deer and couldn't wait to get it back from Long Fei. "Brat, you think you're the same as little Gongzi? He has the support of the guardian elder. Who do you have? Even if you're arrogant, you still have to see if you have the ability to do so." Bastard died. Boom. Boom. It only took a moment for him to do exactly what he was doing and once again spread out into the void. The white deer at the side couldn't help but want to make a move, but was pulled down by the heavy immortal. "Don't worry, this boss isn't simple. I'll give him one chance to shake the heavens of the Mountain and Sea sect. If he is qualified, then the entire continent can be his. Everything will depend on whether or not he has the power," the grand immortal Jiang said calmly. Chapter 4473. Chapter 4473. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The air rumbled, and 10,000 kilometers of the world was filled with a chilling, murderous aura. "Ha! You dog thing, taste the pain of your soul being pierced by a killing intent. To be able to die under the Mountain and Sea realm is your special honor." Wang Yudong laughed crazily, his hands surging with killing intent as he charged straight at Long Fei. In his opinion, Long Fei would be destroyed by the boundless killing intent in an instant, without any surprise. The other elders were the same. All of them had apathetic expressions. Long Fei had to die. As long as Long Fei died, they would take back a city today. It wasn't too embarrassing. On the other side, worry was written all over the white deer's face. Feeling the overwhelming killing intent, the hatred in the white deer's heart continued to grow. However, Long Fei did not mind at all, nor did she panic at all. In fact, the corner of her mouth lifted, revealing a playful smile. Long Fei's eyes slightly swept across the reappearing figure and then narrowed. "Since you want to see my abilities, then I shall do as you wish." As he thought about this, Long Fei swiped his hands and a long blade appeared out of nowhere. Dragon resisting the 9 heavens. Long Fei slashed out without stopping. Boom! In an instant, 9 dragons appeared in the sky, soaring and roaring. Long Fei's figure disappeared in the blink of an eye, and the next time she appeared, she was already surrounded by 9 dragons, as if she was the emperor of the heavens and the earth. Following the appearance of the 9 dragons, Long Fei slashed out, and the killing intent that filled the sky immediately dissipated. Rumble, rumble. The killing intent shattered, and the sky turned clear once more. Impossible! How could my Taoist magic of the mountains and seas be so easily broken by you? I don't believe it. Wang Yudong was shocked. He found it even more difficult to accept that he had broken through the white deer technique. After all, the white deer had an eerie aura to it. But Long Fei was different. Basically, she had used force to resist, shuttling through the killing intent that filled the sky, and then wildly cutting through. Such a thing had never happened before. At this moment, astonishment appeared on the faces of the other 9 elders. With their cultivation, they could naturally tell that Wang Yudong's power was completely useless against Long Fei. That day when the killing intent struck Long Fei's body, it was like a mud bull entering the ocean. It instantly became completely silent. Not good. 10th brother, quickly retreat. This kid knows the art of killing. Your power is useless against him. Yes, and his methods are very strange. I'm afraid it has something to do with the dragon race. The 10 of them all spoke out, seeing Long Fei rushing forward atop the gigantic dragon. Their faces were filled with panic. However, it was already too late. After Long Fei extinguished the killing intent that covered 1,000 kilometers in the air with a single slash, the blade beam followed like a shadow and directly locked onto Wang Yudong. Kill! With a roar, Long Fei's killing intent surged. He had once acquired the killing god's inheritance and trained in the way of slaughter. Now, this power had disappeared into the system as the plane of existence changed. But it existed in Long Fei's memories, in his soul. Thus, even though he hadn't cultivated it again, he was still able to use the law of slaughter with a single thought, instantly triggering the killing intent of the heavens and the earth. At this moment, Ling Tian's killing intent surged. However, it was different from before. At this moment, all the killing intent was released from Long Fei. The killing intent was only aimed at Wang Yudong. Plop! In the face of such killing intent, he was on the verge of collapse. He immediately knelt down. No, I'm not willing. I control the slaughter of the mountains and seas. How can the laws of the great Tao be affected by your killing intent? Who are you? Who exactly are you? Wang Yudong kept howling. After 2 consecutive blows, his mind could no longer bear it. He spat out a mouthful of blood with a dejected expression. This question instantly attacked everyone's minds. It was only then that the other 9 elders of the mountain and sea sect realized this problem. Who exactly was Long Fei? This kid is definitely not as simple as we thought. To be able to get that little thing white deer to be our boss, you can imagine. Wrong, we were wrong. I had originally thought that he was the most insignificant one. Never would I have thought that he was the real mastermind. The few of them finally realized the mistake they had made. They thought that Long Fei was a soft persimmon. From the looks of it, Long Fei was the strongest. At this time, What Long Fei did not know was that at this time, within a pavilion in the core region, a beautiful woman's figure was also standing by the window. Yeah, who the hell are you? Long Fei, the owner of the shadow, muttered to himself. This person was none other than Yizimo. However, if Long Fei was here, she would also definitely be incomparably shocked. This was because the current Yizimo had undergone a tremendous change from before. Just based on his cultivation base, he had already risen to a higher level, reaching the human realm. Of course, at this time, Long Fei's aura was also constantly changing. The seal's cultivation was also released at the same time. The power of a paragon of the 6th level surged through the void. Damn, I knew you weren't simple. You pretended to be a pig to eat the tiger, but your cultivation is already at the late stage of the human realm. No wonder you're so strong. The panic in the white deer's eyes disappeared, turning into madness. He had long guessed that Long Fei was pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger, but he never thought that Long Fei would be so berserk. Jianma, who was at the side, could not help but roar. Roar! In the midst of his angry roar, endless lightning started to flash on the Jianma. Ha! As I've said before, how can my master be so weak? To be able to make me feel strange, it must be an extremely powerful big boss. Looking at it now, I was indeed not mistaken. This time, look at how arrogant these old geezers are. The horse laughed proudly. However, there was no change in Long Fei at all. Her eyes were still cold and detached, as her boundless killing intent continued to lock onto Wang Yudong. Who I am is not the main issue. The point is, I gave you a chance. But you must be trying to act cool. I said forget it. Then right now, I must pay the price for my posturing. Long Fei said casually as he waved the god of boundary blade in his hand horizontally. In the next moment, the spirit shadow moved, and the blade light directly swept towards Wang Yudong. Swish! Ryu and blow. Suddenly, Long Fei's blade slashed down. The violent energy flowed down and engulfed Wang Yudong in the blink of an eye. However, at this moment, the remaining people could no longer sit still. Kid, you're enough. Do you really think that there's no one in the mountain and sea sect? If you don't know what's good for you, don't blame us for bullying you. Attack! Yang Li shouted in anger. As the voice of Yang Ji landed on the ground, the people beside him began to madly rush forward. The power of a human realm instantly erupted from them. Kid, prepare to die. No matter who you are, if you offend the mountain and sea sect, there's only one outcome: death. No one dares to act so wildly in the mountain and sea sect, not even a god. Infuriated roars followed the overflowing power of the riots as they poured down and surged towards Long Fei. Chapter 4474. Chapter 4474, Caught Off Guard. Long Fei's face was already filled with rage as she turned around. Together? Then come at me. Long Fei's heart was set on fire. He had wanted to settle things, but they wouldn't. Yet, Wang Yudong had killed him. In that moment, Long Fei decided to make a killing move. However, they had never imagined that the 10 elders of the mountain and sea sect would be so shameless. He watched as Wang Yudong was killed, and he actually attacked at the same time. It could only be said that he was utterly shameless. At this time, the white deer also had a face full of anger as it angrily said, "A bunch of old bastards. How shameless are they to think of such a method? 9 against 1. Do they even have any shame? You talk about the honor of the mountain and sea sect. Now, all of your reputation has been lost. A bunch of shameless things." The white deer bellowed and was about to make its move. However, before he could even move, he was pulled back by the heavy immortal. Stand there and don't move. With your level, stopping even 1 is your limit. 8 people, you're unreliable. The grand immortal Jiang said calmly. If I don't move, then why don't you attack? He rebutted the white deer with an anxious look on his face. I can't do anything, he said. If I do, even the 2 old fellows won't be willing to do anything. As he spoke these words to the grand immortals. Then he looked towards Yang Ri. Yang Li, tell me, if you don't make a move, will the 9 of them be able to withstand it? The Grand Immortal Jiang said calmly. General Zhong Xian, stop making sarcastic remarks. This kid is in a mountain and sea sect, and he dares to attack Elder Wang, not to mention beheading a conclave disciple. To exterminate demons and defend the way of the law, without regard for the knots. This kid must die. Yang Ri had a face full of confidence. At this moment, even though the Grand Immortals had spoken, Yang Ri had a resolute expression on his face. Nothing else but a threat. If the mountain and sea sect truly became enemies with someone who was not inferior to them in any way, then it would be a disaster for the mountain and sea sect. I don't think so. Don't even mention the 9 of them. Even if you include you won't be able to keep him. Jiang Zhongxian smiled and said playfully. Yang Li stared blankly for a moment before coldly snorting. Yi Zichen looked over coldly. At this time, Long Fei had already fallen into the center of the energy whirlpool. 8 types of powers appeared out of nowhere, filled with killing intent. Ha ha ha, kid, you're dead for sure. No one has ever dared to disobey the mountain and sea sect. You dare to kill a disciple of the mountain and sea sect? You still dare to attack me? I'll let you die here today. Wang Yudong laughed out loud. All the unwillingness and humiliation was released at this moment. Idiot. But Long Fei just paused for a moment, then continued with her previous movements. The blade pierced through and continued to slash at Wang Yudong. It was as if he paid no heed to the attacks from behind him. In that moment, he froze. You don't want it. You're crazy, you're going to die. Those are the attacks of 8 supreme experts. Instead of blocking them, you actually want to kill me? No. Wang Yudong kept howling, his voice hoarse, as if he was using all his strength. Even his body was constantly retreating. However, he couldn't stop it at all. Now that Long Fei had released all of her cultivation, coupled with the true intent of slaughter, the power of the ancient code was completely unassailable. At the very least, the current Wang Yudong could not be defeated. Although his cultivation was not weak, Long Fei was not the same as before. Even if Wang Yudong's power could be compared to the avatar from before, it was enough for Long Fei to have the second blade of the God of Boundary right now. At that moment, Long Fei brandished her blade and flew atop the dragon. 9 dragons in the sky, Long Fei and the dragon, as if she was the ruler of the world. And now, it was all about clearing up the mess. Boom! The blade descended and landed directly on Wang Yudong's body. Cut in half. Wang Yudong opened his mouth. Although his body had already been cut off, he still used his powerful willpower to open his mouth with great difficulty as he looked at Long Fei unwillingly. You're going to die. Swish! Long Fei arrived in an instant and stepped on Wang Yudong's body, his eyes filled with pity. Since you are about to die, I might as well tell you a secret. Long Fei ridiculed and opened her mouth slightly. Actually, I didn't just kill Tang Ligon. Your 9 legendary disciples and tens of thousands of elite disciples also died in my hands. With that, Long Fei raised her God of Boundaries blade and descended again. At this point, the power of his soul had finally been depleted, and he breathed his last, unresigned breath. However, when he died, his eyes were wide open in anger, and he died with grievance. But Long Fei did not have the slightest of fluctuation in her heart, casually throwing out another blade strike, slashing down directly. With a single blow of the blade, he had completely vanished. At this moment, the attacks from the remaining 8 people also arrived. Boom, boom, boom. Streams of tyrannical power gathered together, forming a power that could destroy the world, and instantly enveloped the entire area. Long Fei immediately turned around. With a casual wave, God of Boundary Blade's second blade attacked again. Boom! Rumble. Rumble. Rumble, rumble, rumble. In an instant, the body of the 9 dragons were instantly engulfed, and Long Fei was also directly sent flying backwards due to the power of the dragons. Boom! 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 Bang! 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 Long Fei's figure finally stopped. Puff! Long Fei immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. The account could not help but tremble, and even the blade of the god of boundary fell to the side. Damn, is he that fierce? Long Fei suddenly raised his head and looked at the 8 people standing in the air. Each one of these 8 cultivators had cultivations above that of Wang Yudong. It could be said that none of them were inferior to the clone of the eminent holiness. With all 8 of them attacking at the same time, the might they exuded was simply indescribable. If not for the continuous breakthrough in his physical body, he would have been smashed into pulp by this force. But even so, this power still injured Long Fei. At this moment, Long Fei felt that all her internal organs had been dislocated, and her meridians were trembling and deformed. Boss! Master! At this moment, the white deer and the horses were rushing over. He directly came to Long Fei's side. Boss, how are you? This group of dogs, they're simply going too far. 8 against 1, they're truly too shameless. It truly angered the white deer to the core. Long Fei shook her head slightly. I'm fine. Although I was slightly injured, it did not affect me at all. Long Fei said. And at this time, in the sky, 8 figures did not stop, and in the blink of an eye, they separated, forming an encirclement that surrounded Long Fei and the other 2. I thought you were so awesome. It's nothing more than that. Take the white deer and your animal and leave quickly. Otherwise, we will not be able to survive if we attack. This time, this bastard will definitely die. The 8 people instantly replied, not feeling the slightest bit embarrassed. It was as if he felt at ease when the 8 of them attacked, not caring at all about what the white deer said. The white deer looked unsatisfied, but just as it wanted to speak, it was stopped by Long Fei. All of you retreat first. With just the 8 of them, you guys won't be able to do anything. Chapter 4475. Chapter 4475. Long Fei's face was indifferent, although she was injured, but towards the few people in front of him, Long Fei did not care at all. That was all because Wang Yudong was dead. This was also his trump card, which he had disregarded to attack the 8 people. As long as he killed Wang Yudong. So what if he had to fend off 8 people? As long as he didn't die, everything could be repeated. The white deer was stunned. Boss, now is not the time to be brave. You have proven yourself. With your ability, you're qualified to be my boss. He said to the white deer. That's right, master. Let's withdraw first. With this little bastard here, I believe that the grand immortals will not ignore us. Jinma also tried to persuade her, but Long Fei still shook her head. Regarding the 2's reactions, Long Fei was touched. However, they had not spent much time with Long Fei and did not understand him well. Retreat? It was impossible. Long Fei had always been a valiant man who never backed down. Against an enemy, there was nothing else but to fight. It was also at this moment that he extended his hand to pull back the figure of the white deer and the horse. And then he looked at Long Fei. I won't do anything to you, but I can give you a guarantee that even if you kill all 9 of them, you will still have your own place in the mountain and sea sect. And no matter what you want, I'll always be on your side. The grand immortal said. Long Fei looked astonished at the heavy immortal. For a time, everyone was thinking deeply, unable to calm down. No, he must have noticed something, and this promise is a bit too much. Instantly, Long Fei thought in her heart. But at the same time, he understood that this was also a test for himself. And the main premise of this test was to kill these 9 people, Long Fei. With that thought, Long Fei immediately said, Since Senior is so interested, why would it be difficult for you to kill these people? Long Fei said. However, just as he finished his sentence, the other 8 people couldn't take it anymore. Arrogant. You truly do not know your place. Now that you are already a dead person, how dare you spout such nonsense? That strike just now was only half of our strength. Do you really think you're invincible? If the heavens want him to die, they will definitely make him go crazy. Everyone, prepare to attack and eliminate him. The 8 grand elders of the mountain and sea sect all began to speak. In the blink of an eye, the auras of the 8 of them surged as they merged with each other. And at this moment, Long Fei's heart was also moved. He couldn't help but become nervous. Damn, just like that. System, what's wrong with you? It can't be that our computer has crashed again, right? Long Fei thought. He felt that the system was not reliable at all. This time, his only advantage was that he had killed Wang Yudong. As long as he killed Wang Yudong, he would level up. Although there were still experience elixir S left, but the good steel should be used on the blade and could be used for leveling up pills. Therefore, Long Fei did not want to use it right now. But now, even though the other party was about to make a move, the system still did not make sound. With his current strength, even if he was able to withstand this attack, it would be impossible to kill him in the opposite direction. Ryu and blow. It was also at this time that the strength of 8 people gathered in the air, becoming increasingly tyrannical. Bastard, just die. In an instant, 8 beams of light descended from the sky. Moreover, every single one of them contained a type of Tao within them that was extremely terrifying. Damn it, let's go all out. In that moment, Long Fei once again raised her god of boundaries blade and waved it. At this moment, there was no other way. They could only fight head-on. Rumble. In the blink of an eye, explosive power erupted out, and in the blink of an eye, all of the buildings in the mountain and sea realm began to crumble. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Boss. Master. He wanted to charge out, but against the power of a heavy immortal, there was no possibility at all. And now, Long Fei's figure had once again been submerged within. There was no sound. At this moment, within a collapsed Shanghai pavilion, a pavilion was still standing. Yi Zimo's figure also slowly walked out. At this moment, regardless of whether it was the heavy immortal or Yang Ri's gaze, everyone looked over. Extremely unexpected. But Yi Zimo didn't care in the slightest. There was only one direction in her gaze, and that was where Long Fei was. And at this moment, at the center of the explosion, Long Fei was currently undergoing endless torture. The power of the God of Boundaries blade could not withstand the attacks of the 8 people. Nearly 80% of his strength was blocked by his physical body. At this moment, his body was on the verge of collapse. Apart from a perfectly intact head, his 4 limbs had all ruptured. F***CK. System, aren't you F***king going to explode? Long Fei roared. He was speechless, and his heart had even started to take a step back as he prepared to swallow the experience elixir. Ding. And also at this moment, the voice that Long Fei had been waiting for finally appeared. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for slaying 10 of the Mountain Sea Sect's oldest men, Yudong. You have received 3 billion experience points. You have received 3 billion Holy Source points and 1 point of Berserk. Ding. Congratulations, player, for obtaining the Mountain Treading Sword. Ding. Congratulations, player, for obtaining Overturned Sea Palm. Ding. Congratulations, player, for winning the Mountain and Sea Grand Competition. The system beeped out. And this time, indeed, it did not disappoint Long Fei. He directly gave 30 billion experience points. This experience could be said to be directly determined by the boss. And this was not the end. As the system's voice rang out, another wave of voices appeared. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up. Current level, Super Great Perfection, level 7. Experience, 100,000,000/800,000,000 points. Swish! A ray of light engulfed Long Fei's body. This time, not only did all of the injuries on Long Fei's body heal back to how they were before, there were even some faint changes to her body that had been reborn from this collapse. It was just that Long Fei was unable to answer that question. Haha, great. Long Fei laughed out loud. But right after that, Long Fei immediately spoke again. System, Berserk. A lot of Berserk spots had already been accumulated to this point, and only people of this level could happen to be willing to let Long Fei use them. Ding! Congratulations, player, on obtaining the path of the mountains and seas, sky crossing slash. Would you like to learn it? The system prompted. Cultivate all of them. Long Fei said directly, without the slightest hesitation. Although the fact that he was out of the way of the seas and mountains had tempted Long Fei, everything else was useless. But Long Fei still had her own plans, so she accepted everything. At this moment, the people outside had locked their gazes at the center of Berserk. Dead. He should be dead already. This kind of power is enough to instantly kill everyone in the human realm. Don't mention that he's only in the late stage of the human realm. Right, he's just a piece of trash. Even the most outstanding people are trash. As they talked, their faces relaxed a little. Some of them even smiled. However, they were destined to be handsome for no more than 3 seconds. S figure slowly walked out as all of their fantasies collapsed on themselves. Die. The ones who deserve death are the two of you. Today, none of you will be able to escape. Chapter 4476. Chapter 4476. Long Fei's cold and detached voice sounded out. And at this moment, the space was deathly still. Everyone's eyes were fixated on Long Fei. At this moment, Long Fei had shocked them beyond belief. Because at this moment, not only was Long Fei not harmed at all, her aura had become even more tyrannical. Pete, how is this possible? How can he not die from serious injuries and not break it? I don't believe it. This is impossible. In an instant, voices of doubt sounded out. Even the heavy, immortal generals were looking at Long Fei with grave expressions. Good boy. It really is a variable. His entire body is filled with unfathomable secrets. Jiang Zhong said in a low voice. As for the white deer and the horse, they were too shocked to speak. Previously, Long Fei's display of fighting strength had already made them extremely shocked. Now, it even directly refreshed their views of the world. I feel that weakness has already restricted my imagination. The Jima opened its mouth and said in a low voice, looking like it had nothing to live for. In his eyes, he had never dared to imagine it. Long Fei was actually strong to this extent. These mountain and sea sect elders had always been his restricted area. He didn't dare to provoke any of them. And now, Long Fei had killed him just like that. It was even more violent than a white deer. It could even be said that the 8 of them were not injured at all, and had even broken through a level. In his eyes, this kind of scene was a miracle. No, you were wrong. Not only does weakness restrict your imagination, it also limits your eyesight, your vision, and your pattern. The only reason why you think that is so powerful is because you think so. In the eyes of the boss, it might just be a stepping stone. He said to the white deer. At this time, in his heart, his admiration for Long Fei had already reached an incomparable degree. He had even exceeded the level of faith he had in the Grand Immortals. At the same time, there was another person who was equally shocked. That would be Yi Zichen. At this moment, Yi Ziziai's expression was indifferent, but there was still a hint of surprise in her eyes. So, everything you said is true. You dare to overthrow the mountain and sea sect? You really have that power. Yi Zichen muttered in a low voice. Looking at Long Fei had a proud expression on her face. After saying that the god of Boundary Blade was already in her hand. Now that he had leveled up, although he still couldn't use the 3rd blade of the god of Boundary Blade, but he had unlocked a skill for Long Fei. It was a true ultimate skill. At least, during the 2 times he had attacked, he had never let Long Fei down. Long Fei was certain that as long as she made a move, she would be able to instantly turn the entire arena upside down. In the next moment, Long Fei's gaze locked onto the 8 mountain and sea sect elders. Is this all you have? The so-called 10 great elders of the mountain and sea sect were nothing more than that. If that's all there is to it, it is my responsibility to tell you all that after today, the top 10 elders of the mountain and sea sect will become history. All of you will become my souls. Leave no one alive. Long Fei said coldly. Originally, there was no need for all of this to happen. But when he had the intention to kill, the 8 of them attacked from behind. This result had already been decided. Adding on the words of a great deity, it directly made Long Fei put a few people on the blacklist. How arrogant. Too arrogant. It's just a breakthrough. Although this kind of thing is hard to come by, it's not like it has never happened before. Umph. Boy, you won't have that kind of luck again. Since you're looking to die, then I'll show you the true Tao of the mountains and seas this time. Everyone, there's no need to hold back this time. Just kill him. The 8 people said. His words were incredibly tough. However, the panic in his eyes showed that he had nowhere to run. It was for this reason that they decided to use the great Tao of the mountains and seas. He wanted to use his most violent strength to directly kill Long Fei. But Long Fei, on the other hand, directly put away the god of boundaries blade. The great Tao of the mountains and seas is not bad. If I kill the few of you here, I should be able to get it all out. Long Fei thought. And then, he was extremely excited. At this moment, there wasn't enough time to think about it. That was because the 8 members of the mountain and sea sect had already attacked. There is still a Tao on the mountain. Life. Limitless break. The Tao of the mountains and seas is sealed. Heaven's sealing life technique. The mountain and sea realm has its own Tao and power. Great desolation of demons. The mountain and sea has its own Tao. Subdue it. Mountain and sea eternal rest. The Tao of the mountains and seas is destroyed. Soul extinguishing burning soul. The mountain and sea realm has its own Tao and its own destiny. The art of life creation. There is a Tao in the mountains and seas. Die. Spirit burying. The Tao of the mountain and sea exists. Fortune. Destroying chi and extinguishing destiny. 8 consecutive sounds. Each and every one of the mountain and sea elders had a sealing mark drawn up by their own hands, which was incredibly profound. Every type of power contained the power of a Tao. Fate, annihilation, sealing power. The 8 types of power that contain the power of the Tao madly swept out. Merely taking out this kind of strength would make it an unparalleled achievement. The fact that the mountain and sea sect could control 10 Taos at the same time showed how powerful they were. And now they were using 8 great Taos of the mountains and seas at the same time to suppress a single person. This was the first time in the entire history of the continent that such a thing had occurred. This time, even the eyes of the heavy immortal turned heavy. Even he had to be moved by such power. Soon after, his gaze landed on Long Fei. He was looking forward to it. And at this time, the power of Long Fei's hands also began to surge. It wasn't that he didn't have the power of the great Tao. In fact, Long Fei had a feeling that the power of her own great way of the Buddha could crush all Taos. Thus, at this moment, Long Fei did not have the slightest bit of hesitation. Even if all 8 of them attacked at the same time, it was still suppressed by the 8 great Taos. He was also not afraid in the slightest. Ryuan. It was at this point that the power of 8 great Taos began to descend. In the blink of an eye, the world was devoid of light. Dust rose up from the mountains and seas, and the wind and rain abruptly fell. It was a picture of disaster, like the end of days. Rumble, rumble. The sound of a great Tao filled the air. At the same time, Long Fei also silently raised both of her hands. The great Tao. Long Fei's lips slightly opened. Her hands turned delicately as she guided the way into the heavens. Boom! In the blink of an eye, an enormous pair of shadows appeared in the sky. And then the entire sky, the entire mountain, was enveloped in this shadow. Even Grand Elderba of the mountain and sea sect was no exception. In my hands, Long Fei continued to speak. Following the end of his words, a pair of large hands took shape in the air. Whoosh! Concealing the void was akin to controlling the hand of void. The power unleashed by the Tao of the mountains and seas suddenly came to a halt. It was as if he was ashamed of himself and had lost all light. As for the 8 elders, they all had painful expressions on their faces. Streaks of blood flowed from their 7 orifices. No, what is this power, my Tao technique? Impossible! How can you possibly control the great Tao's method? the origin of all Taos. I don't believe it, I don't believe it. No. Sect leader, save me. In one breath, everything had reversed. The 8 elders, all of whom had been utterly overpowered, were now frantically begging for mercy. Under the suppression of the hand of the great Tao, they couldn't help but begin bowing and groveling. It seemed that this was the only way to obtain forgiveness. However, Long Fei remained unmoved. The power of the great hand of the Great Way continued to frantically descend. Under this power, the flesh of the 8 elders began to crumble. Their mantra began to be destroyed, leaving no room for resistance at all. At this moment, Long Fei, one person, one move, had instantly flipped through the entire arena. Chapter 4477. Chapter 4477, one hand covering the sky. The current situation was as though he could cover the sky with one hand. Especially that the Great Way is in my hands. It also pushed Long Fei's figure to the extreme. One person with one hand, overturning the heavens with the other. Boom, boom, boom. It was at this point that the 8 great Taos of the mountains and seas completely collapsed. Under the power of the hand of the great Tao, it was like a child's play, unable to withstand a single blow. As for the 8 grand elders of the mountain and sea sect, they too had fallen to the hands of the great Tao. Their fleshly bodies collapsed, and their souls vanished. In the distance, the grand immortals were constantly pouting, and their throats were constantly squirming as well. Even someone as powerful as him was touched. The great Tao. With a soft sound, the heavy immortal's gaze once again looked towards Yang Tian. Yang Ri's eyes were now filled with fear and regret. All of this could have been avoided. If not for them giving face to the so-called powerhouse, all of this could have been avoided. But now, it was already too late. Of the top 10 elders in the mountain and sea sect, 9 had been cut down, leaving only him as the commander-in-chief. Brat, you're so vicious. What is the mountain and sea sect so worried about? Yang Li said fiercely. At this time, his hatred for Long Fei overflowed to the heavens. Long Fei was also stunned. Target, you think too much. However, you should understand that the great Tao is ruthless. If anyone dares to block my way, I will kill them. And very evidently, you all have stopped me. Long Fei's pupils contracted as she said indifferently. At this moment, the white deer had already begun to move under his control. Or perhaps it could be said that he had already let go of the great immortal's control. After all, even the 8 elders were dead, and there was no longer any threat. Ah, well said. Boss, can you be any more awesome? The 8 great elders, no, 9 of them. This is one of the top battle prowess of the mountain and sea sect. If they say they're going to wipe them out, then so be it. The white deer was extremely excited, as if it wanted the world to be at peace. Jima also came up to him. Master, why don't we just kill this old fogey and in the mountain and sea sect's thoughts? We can't make things difficult for us in the future. Jima said, his eyes burning with fervor. He was like a completely different person from before. Previously, he even advised Long Fei not to play it too far. Now, they wanted Long Fei to kill Yang Tian to prevent future troubles. Long Fei lifted her head indifferently, her gaze looking towards the ground in silence. Because at this moment, the system's voice came again. Ding! Congratulations, player, on killing Long Fei, who has killed Mountain Sea Sect's elder. The reward is 3 billion experience points, 3 billion holy source points, and 1 striking value point. 8 chimes in a row. All of them were based on experience. In fact, it wasn't even comparable to Wang Yudong's, who didn't even use a single cultivation technique. Long Fei was depressed. She was prepared to go berserk, but realized that her striking value was not enough. This was a bullshit bug of the system. That was the accumulation of striking value. At most, it would only be 100. No matter how many people he killed, after going berserk once, he would have 0 points. Only after that would he be able to accumulate enough points to continue. Not good. The most powerful of these 8 was the Taoist magic of the mountains and seas. If we can't get them, then wouldn't we suffer a huge loss? Long Fei thought. This time, in order to kill 8 people. Even the hand of the great Tao had been unleashed. How could Long Fei be satisfied with just a little bit of experience? Even though the 8 of them had brought him 240 billion experience points, in addition to the 10 billion from before, that was 250 billion. However, it still could not satisfy Long Fei. With just a thought, killing intent filled Long Fei's heart. He was just about to let Jianma take a look around. But at that moment, the system's voice rang out once again. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining the Great Way of the Mountains and Seas. Life. Ding! Another series of reminders. What Long Fei did not expect was that this time, there would be no berserk attacks. Holy shit! How can the system be so humane? Long Fei's heart stirred. She was in disbelief. However, there was no time to speculate about this. No matter what the method was, the power now belonged to him. And it was also at this time that Long Fei's gaze directly fell on Yang Plains. This was the last person among the 10 elders. Long Fei was sure that this person could control a type of Tao that was similar to the way of the mountains and seas, and might even be stronger than the other 8 people. If it was possible, Long Fei would not hesitate at all and immediately stab down with her blade. But now, he had used the power of the hand of the great Tao. Right now, the strongest attack he had was only 9 dragons in the sky. It would be unrealistic to rely on the 9 dragons in the sky to kill Yangri. After all, Yangli was very strong, although it was inferior to that of a grand immortal. But in Long Fei's perception, she felt that it was a little bit stronger than the avatar of Jizun back then. Unless he could slash out the God of Boundaries' blade a 3rd time, with his current abilities, he would at most be able to face his opponent head-on. However, killing his opponent would be extremely difficult. Are you satisfied with this result? Long Fei said indifferently. However, his eyes were looking at Jiang Zhongxian. Because before he said that even if he killed all 10 of them, he would still be able to endure it. However, the eyes of the heavy immortal general flashed with a cold light as he smiled at Long Fei. Isn't there another one? Since we have already killed 9, we might as well also kill this one. The grand immortal said. But when he said that, Long Fei's heart became bitter. A cold smile still hung on his face, but in his heart, he had already raised his middle finger towards the heavy immortal. He didn't believe that the grand immortals wouldn't be able to sense him. He was currently powerless to use the power he had just now. Otherwise, why would he waste words with him? But at this time, Long Fei absolutely could not show it. The only thing he could do was to follow his words and look toward the sun. You saw it too? It's not me who wants to kill you. However, there are those who are dissatisfied with this result. Long Fei said softly. He immediately threw a tantrum. He pushed the blame onto the grand immortals. The purpose was to put pressure on Yangli. And the truth was just as Long Fei had thought. In that instant, Yangji's expression instantly became incomparably ugly. It immediately turned into the color of a pig's liver. It really is you, General Heavy Immortal. I knew it. How could these little bastards dare to ignore the authority of the Mountain and Sea sect? So it turns out that all of this is because of you supporting us from behind. Yang Tian couldn't stand up in hatred. His eyes almost popped out, and his hatred overflowed to the heavens. The head immortal was stunned. He had not expected Long Fei to be so shameless, but he did not explain anything. As for Long Fei, she also walked towards the place where Yangli was standing. The God of Boundary in her hand was also flickering with a cold light. At this moment, Yang Ji was finally afraid. Retreat without a fight. Before Long Fei made her move, her figure moved and transformed into green light and disappeared without a trace. Long Fei looked in the direction that Yang Qian had left, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Long Fei naturally did not want to do something that she found difficult to please. Since she wasn't able to kill the other party, there was no point in fighting him. It was better to just conserve her strength. However, he still had to put on an act. After all, he had already pushed the heavy immortal out. So no matter what, he had to make the other party satisfied. But just when Long Fei was about to give chase, she was stopped by the heavy immortal. There's no need. Someone is coming. The Grand Immortal said. Chapter 4478. Chapter 4478. So. 3 streaks of light pierced through the skies and descended. Long Fei also raised her head. She was heading towards the top of the Mountain Sea Pavilion, which was located in the middle of the void. These 3 figures were none other than the sect leader of the Mountain and Sea sect, as well as the Grand Elder and the recently departed Yangji. At this moment, Yang Ri's face was calm. The panic from before was gone. On the contrary, it was a look of certainty. General Immortal, is this your choice? You want to stand on the opposite side of the Mountain and Sea sect? The Mountain and Sea Lord spoke. After he finished speaking, his gaze immediately swept towards Long Fei. He's only an existence that has just entered the peak of human cultivation. What kind of storm could he cause? If you are relying on him, then I can only say that your million years of longevity have all come to nothing. The Mountain and Sea Lord continued. Damn you, you old bastard. What are you talking about? My lord killed 9 of the top 10 elders in the Mountain and Sea sect. Are you blind? If you give my boss some more time, he might have already changed his surname. The White Deer said directly. There was no wince in his eyes, only excitement. Furthermore, he showed no reverence for the Mountain and Sea Sovereign. In fact, he even showed him boundless hostility. Humph! The Mountain and Sea Lord snorted coldly. His gaze froze, and then a great terror directly pierced through. Instantly, the White Deer's face turned deathly pale. It was also at this time that Long Fei and the Heavy Immortal made her move. Long Fei leaped forward and blocked in front of the White Deer, forcibly resisting this kind of pressure. The Grand Immortal was even more direct as he looked back. In the blink of an eye, countless Mountain and Sea disciples began to wail. The expression on Yang Li's face turned incomparably pale. Clean and swift. Whatever you do to me, I'll get back. If you make things difficult for my son alone, then I'll make the entire Mountain and Sea sect suffer. It was at this point that the Mountain and Sea Lord's eyes narrowed. He glared at the Grand Immortal, but could do nothing about it. In the end, he could only withdraw his gaze. However, the Heavy Immortal refused to give up and directly said, "What's wrong? Don't be afraid, continue. It just so happens that I would like to know how you have been cultivating these past few years." The Grand Immortal said, "Enough, Grand Immortal. Don't tell me that you think this matter is not big enough." At the same time, the Mountain and Sea sect's Grand Elder roared. Suddenly, another wave of pressure descended. Furthermore, the Lord of the Mountain and Sea realm, who had just looked away, once again felt incredible pressure weighing down on him. Caught off guard, the combined power of the two formed a force that was hard to defend against. Not even a Heavy Immortal could withstand it. They all let out groans and backed up a few steps. In fact, there was even some blood coming out from the corner of his mouth. However, he was still struggling to hold on. This was because he could not retreat. If he retreated with this kind of power, he would be heavily injured even if he did not die, relying on the White Deer and the horse. This was not a simple difference in strength. It was a fatal blow to his cultivation base. Old man, the White Deer was also momentarily flustered. This was also the first time he saw a Heavy Immortal getting injured. Haha, genuine Immortal Generalissimo, you're nothing much. Perhaps we are not your match alone, but now that we are working together, what can you do? To fight alone, you are the king. But don't forget, you're only one person, but we have two. The Mountain and Sea sect's Grand Elder laughed heartily. The Mountain Sea sect's sect leader's expression was also slightly relieved, as if he was saying that he couldn't do it. Especially Yang Tian, his eyes now had an expression as if he had gotten his revenge. Sect head, Grand Elder, the weight of a Grand Immortal is secondary. It's this kid who killed 9 of our Mountain and Sea sect elders in succession. He's a conclave disciple. He definitely can't be allowed to live. Yang Li hurriedly said when he saw the Heavy Immortal being suppressed. This was because he knew very well that even though he could suppress the Grand Immortal by relying on the Mountain's Sovereign and Grand Elder. However, it was only temporary. If it really was a battle of life and death, Even the two of them would not be able to stay. Thus, he could only take a step back. After all, no matter how crazed he was, there were still people who could suppress him. But Long Fei was different. The feeling Long Fei gave him was like a bottomless pit that could not be seen through. In addition, that palm strike from before was simply too amazing. It was able to completely suppress the heaven and earth. He had a feeling that if that power were to be applied to his body, he would undoubtedly die. Therefore, compared to the reappearance of the scripture, the threat that Long Fei posed to him was much greater. He even more so wanted to strangle Long Fei from his cradle and didn't want to give him the slightest opportunity to turn the situation around. At this time, Long Fei's heart was already extremely depressed. When he heard that Yang Tian actually aimed his spear at him, the anger in his heart instantly reached its peak. F***CK. I was just ignored a moment ago. I can't even let you care about me killing 9 elders. Now, you want me to kill me? It doesn't feel like it exists at all. You're treating me as transparent, right? Long Fei was extremely unhappy. As soon as the two of them appeared, they seemed to be high and mighty, and it was obvious that they were very proud to have crushed one another. Long Fei thought to herself, she had never seen anyone that did not want to embarrass themselves like this. Furthermore, he had a Taoist appearance, standing at the highest moral point, poking at the wrong, making Long Fei feel even more disgust. Thinking about it, Long Fei's heart moved. His eyes were as cold as frost, and in his mind, a door appeared and disappeared. Ding! Congratulations, player, on activating Power of Eternity. Would you like to use it? At this moment, the system suddenly reminded him. Long Fei stared blankly. Originally, she had wanted to use the fiery golden eyes, but she did not expect that she would be able to directly activate the Power of Eternity. Activate! Without any suspense, Long Fei directly chose to use it. As the memories returned, many of the things that had been used in the past began to return to him, although some of the means were no longer suitable for the current situation. However, there are also forces that do not fade as the forces change. The Power of Eternity was one of them. Long Fei had once controlled the coffin of immortality and became Eternal Lord. The power of eternal life had yet to be acquired. But as someone from the Eternal Lordess, controlling the coffin of immortality was the supreme will. Now, under the suppression of these two people, the anger in Long Fei's heart burst forth and was actually directly touched. And also at this time, S order sounded out. A will immediately surged out from his body. It was as if a deity was looking down from the heavens at all living beings. Boom! Puff! In the blink of an eye, the mountain and sea sovereign and Elder Tai Hong's faces fell. As for Yang Li, he was even more miserable. He immediately spat out a mouthful of blood with a face full of shock. What kind of power is this? Why do you have such a terrifying will? Who the hell are you? The mountain and sea sex grand elder cried out in shock and disbelief. At this moment, everyone's gaze was fixated on Long Fei. It was the same even with the heavy immortals. At this moment, Long Fei was supreme like a ruler. Chapter 4479. Chapter 4479. With a single thought, he crushed others in a domineering and arrogant manner. Long Fei's eyes were like the heavens, examining everyone before him. You all, who won't accept it? Long Fei said coldly. As the sound of his voice faded, heaven and earth fell silent. As of this moment, the 3 members of the Mountain and Sea sect were like dead dogs. Even the Mountain Sea sect's Grand Elder and sect leader were unable to block it. Who the hell are you? The Mountain and Sea Lord couldn't help but speak up. Incomparable surprise, because in this world, their strength already belonged to the peak. No one could suppress them from the aura alone. Now, not only did Long Fei do it, moreover, it was a form of suppression. This disparity in power caused them to feel completely lost. Long Fei did not say a word. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but that he couldn't. Because in the instant when the immortals will burst out from his sea of consciousness, Long Fei felt that he had been hollowed out. Although this power was awesome, the requirements towards Long Fei were indeed harsh. Long Fei felt that all of her creative energy had been swallowed by this thought in an instant. If not for his tough body, he would have been utterly humiliated. It was also good that he could persevere because he was a heavy immortal. However, at this moment, a sudden change occurred. She withdrew her aura and came to Long Fei's side. "Old fellow, it looks like your eyes aren't good enough. I can't stop the two of you by myself, but someone can. Now, why don't you all scream again?" He was incomparably smug. Standing beside Long Fei, her face was filled with contempt. However, what he did not know was that Long Fei was secretly complaining in her heart. He had been enduring bitterly to begin with, but now, because he had pulled the Grand Immortals away, he was on the verge of collapse. F***, strength deceives teammates. Long Fei complained incessantly in her heart. However, his face was still as calm as before. No matter what, we can't lose face, Long Fei thought. In that moment, Long Fei took the initiative to sacrifice himself and unceasingly infused her own strength into her sea of consciousness at the power of eternity that burst forth. There was no other way, because Long Fei knew clearly in her heart that if he couldn't withstand it. When that happened, the three members of the Mountain and Sea sect would strike like lightning. Although he was able to restrain the Grand Immortals, he knew that in his current state, he definitely wouldn't be able to take them head-on. But right at this moment, a figure suddenly appeared. Ignoring Long Fei's might, the figure directly arrived at his side and grabbed onto his hand. Weak, boneless, soft as jade. Suddenly, Long Fei thought. But in the next moment, it was still not able to reach a deeper level of awareness for Long Fei. He immediately interrupted them. Instantly, streams of indescribable power flowed through Long Fei's arm. Long Fei also felt her body lighten. The revived power of eternity seemed to have found an even more delicious power. It no longer devoured the power to create life. Not only that, they didn't seem to be weakening at all. In fact, they seemed to be increasing in strength. The expression in Long Fei's eyes changed, as she was extremely shocked in her heart. No matter what, he didn't think of it. The one helping him at this moment was actually Yi Zimo. What was even more terrifying was that Yi Zimo's strength could actually make the power of eternity get close to her. "You?" Long Fei opened her mouth to speak. However, she was immediately interrupted by Yi Zzi. "Big brother Long Fei, there's no need to say anymore. I'm very pleased that you're here," Yi Zimo said, and became extremely obedient. He then turned to look at the Mountain and Sea Lord. "Secmaster, this is my husband. The reason he wanted to kill Tang Ligan was because Tang Ligan had been rude to me. That's why my husband wants to kill him," Yi Zimo said. This explanation stunned everyone. Only the white deer and the horse were winking as if they understood the whole story. Long Fei was completely shocked. The feeling of being raided by a pirate ship on the leaderboard assaulted his senses. He couldn't even tell which side Yi Zimi was in this state. Even though she looked harmless, she seemed to be the goddess from the very first time they met. However, Long Fei still could not believe it in her heart. Too strong. Not only did his cultivation break through a whole level from before, more importantly, Yi Zimo's current power could make the power of eternity feel favored or even desired. This kind of feeling was even stronger than Yi Zimo's current cultivation. Furthermore, Long Fei had the feeling of being mixed with water and milk and wanted to be unable to extricate herself from it. He did not understand why Yi Zimo would suddenly jump out to help him, or even use his own name as a wager. One must know that this was the Mountain and Sea Lord, the most powerful member of the Mountain and Sea sect. Moreover, this explanation was too far-fetched. Even Long Fei himself didn't believe it. At the same time, the Mountain Sea sect leader and the Supreme Elder were also astonished. As she looked at Izumie, who suddenly appeared, her eyes gradually turned cold. "Impudent! You are only a core disciple, yet you dare to speak so arrogantly in front of us. You deserve to die for your sake." Yangji immediately roared. The hatred in his eyes exploded. "You're courting death." Long Fei's heart stirred. and an even more berserk willpower immediately rushed forward to crush him. Boom! His eyes narrowed, and his willpower for eternal life began to crush down. Puff, puff. This time, even the mountain and sea lord and the Grand Elder were incapable of bearing the pressure. They were instantly destroyed and coughed up mouthfuls of blood. His mind was severely damaged. As for the place where Yongli was standing, it was even more unbearable. Under a single glance from Long Fei, it even directly fell down from the sky and arrived in front of Long Fei. He seized the opportunity of the white deer and stomped on it, crushing it to the ground. Idiot, do you have the right to speak here? My lord is invincible. Even a mountain and sea sect leader and Grand Elder couldn't stand up to him. How dare you scold my sister-in-law? Is it an IQ tax break? Or are your eyes blind? He ruthlessly reprimanded the white deer. If it was before, then he would be a little devil in a chaotic world. He didn't dare to act so arrogantly in front of the 10 elders of the mountain and sea sect. But it was different now. Now that Long Fei was here, these mountain sea sect's Grand Elders were no different from ordinary disciples. Reckless abuse. You little bastard. How could Yongri endure such humiliation? He immediately asked. However, just as his voice fell, he was met with a kick from the white deer. Boom! Asterisk as he stomped on the ground. Yang Zhao felt dizzy and almost fainted. To the side, the Grand Immortal didn't even stop him. Long Fei looked meaningfully at Yi Zimo. Previously, he had already brought out the strongest power of eternity, but it did not have this effect. And now it could crush him. Amongst all of them, it must be Yi Zimo's method. Thinking about it, Long Fei had a feeling that if she teamed up with Yi Zimo, wouldn't she be invincible? And at this moment, Yi Zimo seemed to have sensed what Long Fei was thinking, and the aura on his body slightly changed. She had gone from being charming to being incomparably cold. And Long Fei felt even more that at this moment a barrier appeared within the power of eternity. Immediately, a sense of nothingness engulfed them. Chapter 4480. Chapter 4480. Let go. Nightchild may directly released his hand. And then this stock can overwhelm all beings, and the will to suppress everything is broken. At this moment, Long Fei also felt a sense of emptiness in the sea, and the power of eternal life that awakened seemed to have lost its support and gradually returned to nothingness. Silently, Long Fei's heart gave birth to a sense of desolateness. At this time, as Long Fei's eternal power in the sea dissipated, the will of the crushing world finally disappeared. The three people of Shanhaizong also returned to normal, breaking free from pain and suffering. Long Fei can calm down. If nothing happens on the face, since the words have already been explained, then I will not hide them. Whoever is disrespectful to my woman, no matter who is behind, just one word, kill. Whoever blocks me, I will kill anyone. Now, do you want to continue? Said coldly. In the eyes of Long Fei, the fierce light is just right. Even if the power of eternal life has dissipated, it is still strong in the momentum. The three masters of Shanhaizong were also stunned by Long Fei at this time. They hated the sky and were extremely unwilling, but did not dare to speak. For a long time, Shanhaizong's elders seemed to react. Eyes locked Long Fei. I really want to know who you are. Shanhaizong said to the elders. The voice is hoarse and full of powerlessness. It seems as if I am a few years old. In particular, asking this sentence seems to have exhausted the strength of the whole body. There is no sense of gloom. Long Fei snorted and his eyes were low. Who is he? He is not a person in this world at all. How to explain? Besides, Long Fei has never had a habit of explaining. The next moment, Long Fei said directly, Who am I? It doesn't matter. What's important is why I come. Long Fei said, strong and incomparable. This is the case in the world. You have absolute strength and you can talk to each other. It's hard to hold the other person right now. Long Fei naturally has to seize the opportunity, chase after the victory, and open the door. For a moment, even the eyes that will reappear will be seen. Before, He tried to stimulate Long Fei, saying that no matter what Long Fei wanted, he would top it down. But nowadays, he does not need to shoot at all, and Long Fei directly handles it. Moreover, it is extremely strong. Therefore, he is extremely curious. What Long Fei wants, what is it? Can stand on the ground. This will not know how to live and die. Do you want your woman? Now that you have done it, what do you want? Yang Lidi said with anger and anger. Once upon a time, he was subjected to this humiliation. Has Shan Haizong been subjected to such humiliation? But now, in the face of a strong dragonfly, have to bow. However, he did not expect that Long Fei would be even worse, and there are requirements. Therefore, even if the fear is in my heart, I can't help but say it. Yes, just in the next moment. Yang's sad reminder directly closed his mouth again. This time, not the white deer, but the horse. Jianma fell, and the power of the thunder spread. After a loud noise, Yang went to take the gods, and the whole body was black and the hair was blown up. Mo is forced to force, loaded with thunder. The white deer could not help but ridicule. And Long Fei is not concerned. If it is before, Yangli may be very powerful. But now, in front of Shan Haizong and the elders of the elders, he has no right to speak at all. At this time, Shan Haizong also looked at Long Yao. What do you want? The voice of Shan Haizong is low and contains endless anger. It's very simple. I want to pass through the road. Or I want to set foot on Tongxian Road in the name of Shan Haizong. Long Fei said faintly. This is his ultimate goal. Originally, I wanted to be gradual, knowing the world myself, and then replacing it with the other person's identity. But now it has not been used. Lian Shan Haizongzhu has already been convinced. Who else can stop his pace? Non-existent. At this time, whether it is the Shanhai sect, the elders, or the celestial beings, they all look blank. Furthermore, it is an incredible face. Gone. The elders of the elders said, full of surprises. I did not expect that Long Fei wanted to be so simple. I knew that this was the case. They wouldn't even take the shots and go straight to the negotiations. In this way, you don't have to take your own insults. Boss, the plot is not like this. You shouldn't be a big lion? You want the law of mountains and seas. You want the mountains and seas. You want the whole mountain sea sect? How do you replace them in a Tongxian road? This is not scientific. Boss, are you mistaken? The white deer said quickly and on the side. In his mind, things should not be developed like this. At this time, Long Fei roared everything and was in absolute power. Even as long as Long Fei said a word, it is not impossible for the entire Shan Haizong to be in the bag. However, Long Fei only made such a request. It was completely beyond his expectations. However, Long Fei smiled gently and ignored the white deer's incomprehensibility. He looked at the elders of Shan Haizong. Yes, no, it's that simple. Long Fei said, there is no extra nonsense. As for the white deer, Long Fei did not care. Anything relative to your own tasks can be second to none. Moreover, now he can stand here so violently. In the final analysis, there is the help of the Night Child. The mystery of the Night Child is much more mysterious than Shan Haizong. In case this time withdraws, I will ignore Long Fei. The result is very special. Therefore, Long Fei directly cut into the theme, that is to pass through the road. At this time, the Shanhai sect and the elders of the elders looked at each other and focused on the suspicion. Well, I can promise you, but you can only enter it as my disciple. The chief of the mountain sea said, Tongxian Road is the most sacred place in the entire world. Whoever can step through Tongxian Road can become a legendary fairy, gather and soar, and enter a new field. In the ancestral gate, you can also get endless secrets. Therefore, when Long Fei proposed to enter Tongxian Road, they made this plan directly in their hearts. After all, Long Fei is extremely strong. Yes, but I am afraid of heights. I just want to be a foreign disciple. Long Fei said that it is not salty or light. Obviously, I don't want to talk too much with him. After that, I couldn't help but say that I didn't wait for the night to be rejected. I pulled my hand and turned and left. Only the left of the mountain sea lord and others looked confused and looked at the dragon flying away. Similarly, the white deer is also dumbfounded. Looking at the back of Long Fei and looking at the young lady at the foot, I regret that I can't. Now that I have turned the mountains and seas, I have to quit from the last point, and I just want to quit. Of course, since Long Fei is gone, he will not stay, leaving with Jianma. At this time in the outer door, a green shirt is looking above the void. Is it finally going to meet? Chapter 4481. Chapter 4481. The outer door, the peaks and ridges, rushed into the sky. Because of the dragonfly, it directly became a forbidden place. In 3 days, the whole foreign disciples set off a big move, and countless disciples moved out. Some talents were acceptable, and they were arranged by the elders of Shanhaizong. If the talent is slightly worse, it will be arranged directly down the mountain. In short, the entire outer door has now become a place for one person. This person is Long Fei. Similarly, above the highest peak of the outer door area, that is, the land where the mountains and the sea meet, a magnificent place of cultivation was directly forged by the elders of Shanhaizong and forged by the supreme gods. I am a boss. I've been arrogant in the mountains for so many years, not as good as the ones you have given in a few days, said the white deer. There was a flash of glare in the eyes, and there was a faint loss. Long Fei smiled. Not to mention, Shanhaizong's act is that he has some accidents. For the first time, Long Fei felt that Shanhaizong was not so ugly, thinking that it was a bit too much for himself. However, in a flash, the idea was tortured and killed by Long Fei. The reason why he can have such treatment is because he is strong. If he fights that day, he is suppressed. He is afraid that he can die now. Therefore, Long Fei has peace of mind for everything that Shanhaizong has now. It's a big deal. If you don't do it, you will kill it and leave some homes for Shanhaizong. Thinking in my heart, Long Fei can't wait to enter it. I have to say that Shanhaizong's shot is really a big deal. It's just a place to fall. It's a luxury. Tens of thousands of Lian Longfei are not named for their stature, and numerous lines are shining on this figure, full of divinity. Long Fei has a feeling that relying on the cultivation of these bodies, even if it is the top of the mountains and seas, the owner of the mountains and seas is not too much. From this point, it can be seen that Shanhaizong is jealous of Long Fei. With this in mind, Long Fei entered without any psychological burden. At this time, the figure of Yang Lidi appeared directly above the void, but he did not want to, but he had to put on a low-browed look and came to Long Fei. Dragon Master, this is the place of practice that Shanhaizong has prepared for you. I wonder if it is satisfactory? Yang Li said. Long Fei nodded gently and said, it's still alive. Understated. Did not show a little stunning appearance at all. Yang stood up and felt awkward. Although the heart is very uncomfortable with Long Fei's indifferent attitude. But Long Fei's attitude is more and more led him affirm that Long Fei must have a great origin. These things, even in Shanhaizong, do not have much inventory. Nowadays, nearly half of them are directly taken out into the forging of Long Fei cultivation. Long Fei, however, underestimated a piece of work. It is a deeper concept, that is, Long Fei is not rare at all. Thinking of this, there is no smugness on the face of Yang Lidi. He directly puts a smile on his face. Long Darren, it takes a month to open Tongxian Road. You can practice here first. If there is any need, even if you are told. Yang Li said, a look of flattery. Long Fei also nodded gently. But my heart is extremely disdainful for the sun. Before the high pitch, the eyes above the top, I feel everything in the world, his most fascinating look. Now it is so low and for. At first glance, it is a small person who tends to be inflamed. However, Long Fei is not broken. After all, what the other party is afraid of is their own eternal power. Now, they can't be motivated. If they really fall out, it will be more troublesome. Since it is only open in a month, then for a while, don't bother me if there is nothing. Long Fei said faintly. In the eyes of Yang Lidi, I can resist the anger in my heart. What the adults say is that since the adults told me, I will not bother naturally. If this is the case, then I will wait for the first step to retreat and wait until the opening of the road is open, and then I will inform the adults. Yangli said, then, step by step, go back, very respectful. Until a few people disappeared, Long Fei only relieved. At this time, the night child opened his mouth. Why? Can't you go on? Squinting with his eyes, with a bit of ridicule. Long Fei looked up and looked back, never back down. It doesn't have to be so ugly to say, I don't know who it is. I said that if I help you, I will be my woman. Why, do it now and want to go back. There are no doors. Long Fei said coldly. I was only a stopgap measure at the time. The nightmare's face changed, and the words were awkward and lost. Then I don't care. Anyway, since you all admit that it is my woman, I still want to run? Long Fei asked. Want to run? Impossible. Not to mention that this is a beautiful woman. Even if it is the power that can be brought close to him by the power that he has passed on, he can't let go. And this month, Long Fei is also ready to discuss with the Night Child, try to truly activate the power of eternal life. Humph! The Night Child is no longer talking, coldly screaming, and walks directly into the land of cultivation. Long Fei laughed, and his heart was refreshing. Thinking, you two will also practice. Strive to break through as much as possible. When I get you, I will pass through the road. Long Fei said. The eyes are extremely firm. He didn't know what the end of Tongxian Road was and what he would encounter on the road. But there is such a determination, the customs clearance. Without it, it is because this is the task of the system. At this point, the white deer and Jima eyes are also bright. Hey, the boss is at ease. I didn't practice well before. This month is enough for me to break through to the peak of real people. It is not impossible to shock people, said the white deer. Me too. As long as the master has a drop of blood, I will be able to turn the whole game in seconds. Even the disciple of the Zhenzong of the Mazong is the same. Jianma said, staring at Long Fei with his eyes straight. The meaning is already very obvious. Long Fei is more direct, with a move, directly from the fingertips, a drop of blood, into the body of the horse. Then, the two left directly and went to the retreat to retreat. But Long Fei did not go in. For a month, I said that it is not long, and that short is not short. It's time to meet one side. Long Fei sighed secretly, his eyes turned slightly, and he looked at the foot of the foreign disciple. What he said is of this world. At this point, the two separated by a mountain, the induction was surprisingly strong. What Long Fei didn't know was that at this time, under the foot of the foreign disciple, at Tsing, he was staring at the dragon flying where the mountains and the sea met. Do you feel it too? It seems that it is time to meet one side. Tsing Long Fei whispered and set foot on the land where mountains and sea meet. But at this time, a voice appeared directly, blocking his way. Long Fei, you want to find death? Chapter 4482. Chapter 4482. Tsing Long Fei was intercepted and blocked by a figure. Dragon, you are not looking for death. Now the outer door is a bomb. The area is directly a restricted area, and the elders have ordered that no one can get close. You dare to go up, don't you want to kill us? The disciple of Shan Haizong, who was in front of Long Fei, looked angry. Dragon's glimpse, looking up, looked at a towering building in the air and turned and said, maybe he is a murderer, but he will never kill me. Long Fei said that his eyes were very determined. Immediately, regardless of the block, step by step toward the mountain. Suddenly, these of our disciples were flustered. What should I do? This Long Fei is looking for death. It doesn't matter if he is looking for death. This will kill us. It is said that even the core disciples are folded in the hands of this person, and the top 10 elders are paralyzed. Yeah, on the outer door, casting the natural cultivation of the Scorpio is because he is alone. This existence is also something that we can provoke. One by one, the disciples kept saying, watching Tsing Long Fei leave, the face became more and more tense. Finally, there is a disciple standing up. No, absolutely you can't let him go, or if you really get angry with that person, I am afraid we have to suffer. Yes, even if he can't go up, the elders of the sect are absolutely not allowed. This is simply ignoring the dignity of his omen. So we must stop him. Yes, stop him. In an instant, there was a turmoil under the foot of the mountain. Countless foreign disciples, like chicken blood, were fierce and fierce. They straddled directly above the void and tied the dragon flying to the center. Dragonfly, don't think about it. You're pulling our outer doors into a sinful abyss. I will never allow you to go up. Yes, what is the existence of it? And is it that you can get in touch with this kind of garbage? You want to be a madman? Do you dare to provoke such a monk? One by one disciple said crazy, extremely disdainful in the eyes. Looking at is like looking at a joke. In their view, Long Fei wants nothing but a counterattack and wants to take the world by big and achieve it. If Long Fei really can climb and not die, it will inevitably get a chance. But this possibility, in their view, does not exist. After all, even the core disciples, even the elders, are super powerful people who fight between the backhands. Will they care about a foreign disciple? Totally impossible. Even the biggest possibility is to anger each other. Then they set fire to the body, and even their entire outer door will fall into the heat. But they simply don't know that Long Fei is what they want, but it is always. You think more, I am going up the mountain, not in the first place. I can guarantee that I will not be involved in you. Long Fei calmly said that his eyes are very determined. It seems that there is a reason to go up the mountain. However, the current explanation is too superfluous in the eyes of these outside disciples. They simply don't believe it, and they can't listen to any explanation. Nothing else, just because they are afraid they don't want to be done by Long Fei, but they affect themselves. Even if it is a trace of possibility, I don't want to appear. Don't blow the cowhide. How much is your guarantee worth? That is a disciple who even the elders dare to kill. You are garbage that is not in the realm of the veins. What capital does it allow the other party not to kill you? It's just a joke. Suddenly, there was a sneer in the void. At this time, two brilliant lights suddenly broke out in the foot of the mountain. It was the elder of the outer door. Bold, who dares to go up the mountain? A wrath appeared. Then, a few figures appeared directly in front of Long Fei. Do you want to go up the mountain? An elder of the outer door picked up his eyebrows and was not angry. The cultivation of the realm of real people is directly distributed. Hey, in an instant, Long Fei only feels heavy. Consciousness must be washed away. But inexplicable, Long Fei has a fighting spirit in his heart. He knows that this is his only chance. Moreover, this was the man who told him that this would be his only chance in his life. If possible, it will skyrocket. He has been embarrassed and mediocre. The only hope, is Long Fei. At this point, the two are separated by a mountain. How can he continue to endure? In one thought, Long Fei forced the pressure of the elders of the outer door and jerked up. Yes, I want to go up the mountain. Long Fei said that it is very determined. Even at this time, it is a straightforward step. Even if the elders of the outer door are in front of you, even if there are countless outside disciples blocking, Long Fei is at this moment, and he is proud of everything and walks out his heart. Oh, the big rebellion. In front of the elders, dare to be so arrogant? This is a good thing to think about crazy, but also want to go up the mountain. Is this mountain so good? It's too naive, even if I don't stop it. What is the use of him going up the mountain? It's just a dead end. Just that would provoke that person and let us be implicated. Elders, you also saw that this cargo has gone into flames and definitely can't let him go up the mountain. Suddenly, one of the disciples of Shanhaizong said. At this time, the face of the elders of Shanhaizong was also a look of anger. You want to go up the mountain? Who gave you the qualifications in front of the old man? So indifferent. This mountain, is it that you can get it? I don't know what to do. Retire. After a heavy drink, the elders of the outer door slammed. Bang! A huge pressure directly fell from the sky, inspiring souls, suppressing the soul, and the Long Fei figure was suddenly suppressed between them at this time, with a bang, falling under the foot of the mountain. Puff puff. Dragon's face is squirting blood arrows, and Tsing Yi's blood is so miserable. In the distance, countless foreign disciples are indifferent. Indifferent. In their view, all of this is Long Fei. However, at this moment, among their eyes, it is unbelievable to send out a sudden sigh. I saw that Long Fei, who had become a blood man, stood up from the ruins and stood up one step at a time. It seemed to endure endless pain. Even his chest has collapsed, his ribs are broken, and even his legs can't help but tremble. It can be seen that it is also hard to support under the heavy blow. I said, I want to go up the mountain. Long Fei said quietly. Every time a word is spoken, the blood in the corner of the mouth spreads. At this time, the elders of the outer door also trembled fiercely. In the meantime, he felt a feeling of regret in his heart and felt that he had done something wrong. But the thought changed. The elders of the outer door snorted. Impossible! How could I be stunned by a foreign disciple? The elders of the outer door thought about it and turned cold. The old man said that you can't go up the mountain and you can't go up the mountain. Since you were stubborn, don't blame the old man, and your heart is hot. Chapter 44:83. Chapter 44:83. Chapter 44:82. Death. The elders of the outer door looked cold and murderous. Dragon's performance is more and more tenacious, and the more killing in his heart, the stronger it is. Even before that, even his heart was shocked. In this case, it is even more determined that he wants to kill Long Fei. What he didn't know was that at this time, the peak of the outer gate was where the mountains and seas meet. Long Fei's eyes are shining golden light, staring at everything that happened here. He did not take the initiative to take the shot, just want to see the extent of the world itself. The strength is weak, but this determination is enough. Long Fei said in a faint heart. This kind of scene is like the one he used to be, knowing that it can't be done, but still insisting, even if it is desperate, it will not give up. Therefore, Long Fei is now moving, and my heart has moved. At the same time, at this time, in the heart of Long Fei, the killing intention has spread. It seems that sometimes the performance is too high profile, and it really won't work. There was a delay in the business. Long Fei stunned, and his heart sighed. This time, the performance is too high profile. War in a battle. The entire Shanhaizong has become its own back garden, and it has succeeded in replacing the position of the white deer as a taboo in the entire mountain. A big devil who can't provoke. This also directly led to the current situation. But now, Long Fei can't continue to endure. Otherwise, fear that it is the self of this world will die directly at the foot of the mountain. As soon as I read this, Long Fei's figure flashed and disappeared. At this time, under the foot of the mountain, the Long Fei, the blood of the wedding dress, stood proudly at the foot of the mountain. His eyes have been stained with blood red, and every step of the way, there will be a trace of blood on the mountain road. This kind of scene has shocked many outside disciples. From the previous pride and disdain, it became a kind of thick. How deep is this obsession? If you are so hurt, you have to climb up. Unfortunately, if you use the wrong place, if you have this practice, you may not be a real person after 100 years. Yes, it's too cherished. Now everything is late. The more he is persistent, the closer he is to death. Outside disciples have opened their mouths, looking at the Long Fei with great pity. The same is true of the elders at the time. However, the difference is that the more persistent the performance of Long Fei is, the more killing he is in his body. Because he is very clear, this kind of person who can even be out of death can be a terrible once he can breathe. Why think of this, the elders of the outer door, the body breathe, step by step, and come again in front of Long Fei. Since you want to find death, then I will fulfill you. As a disciple, I have never said a word in front of the old man. This mountain, you can't get on. The elders at the outer door were stern. Turn around and shoot directly. Hey, a palm falls. Boom. The figure of Long Fei was once again returned to its original shape and returned to the foot of the mountain. This time, the injury was heavier and the whole person had reached the edge of sudden death. Many outside disciples have regained their gaze. This time, They have already determined that Lone Fei will die. There is no need to continue to look at it. Yes, it is at this time. A blood man has once again climbed up from the ruins, little by little, like a cockroach, moving again in the direction of the mountains. No, it won't die. Oh, it's too naive. Do you think that this will make the mountain move? If it's that simple, it's not strong in the sky. So, it's useless to think about it. He's dead. The foreign disciple said at this time, and these words, falling in the ears of the elders of the outer door, are full of playfulness. With endless ridicule, the elders of the outer door looked coldly and turned into a Lone Fei that the people are still moving forward. Oh, it's ridiculous. Do you think the other person can still shoot for you? Don't look at what you are. As long as you are worthy, said the elders of the outer door. The color of taunting does not hide. But now, Singyi Long Fei has no reaction at all and is still crawling a little. Of course, in this state, there is no expression at all. The elders of the outer door approached step by step and finally came directly to the front of Long Fei and said, "The old man doesn't know what it is for you, so you can stick to it." But so far, a foreigner disciple in the district wants to fly in the sky, dreaming in the daytime. The elders of the outer door sneered, and the right hand moved. With a single click, Lone Fei would die completely. But at the moment when the elder raised his hand, an incomparable mighty pressure crushed from the void. Booming. In an instant, the outer disciples, under the foot of the whole mountain, cultivated the area and collapsed. There is no resistance, as if swept by the storm, directly into the ashes of ruins. And many outside disciples are also kneeling down in an instant, and some people even fall to the ground directly. Under such a will, they simply cannot resist. Even the elders of the outer door, this moment is also a whole body shudder. The right hand raised also at this time, as if it was drawn, it is fixed above the void. In an instant, the elders of the outer door were pale. Between the look up, he has seen a figure. This figure has been a nightmare in the mountains and seas in recent days. No. In an instant, the elders of the outer door screamed directly and asked for mercy. This refining inner door elder is a fierce person who is arbitrarily killed. He does not dare to resist. Moreover, the more you can't hold it. Hello, this is just something inside my mountain high zone. And this kid doesn't know if he wants to offend you. It's just his own thing. Let us go. I'm standing on your side. I'm shooting for you. Shan Haizong's elders yelled. The eyes are full of grievances. Lone Fei is also a glimpse at this time. Until now, the other party thought that he had shot himself, but it was because of the world's own offense. Does this Nima kill or not kill? Lone Fei's heart was slightly embarrassed, but in a blink of an eye, I saw blood people who were already unidentified. In the heart of Lone Fei, there is only one thought left. Dead. Lone Fei light spit out a word. There is no explanation, and no explanation is required. This is the rule. Any game has rules within the game. To blame, you can only blame the elders and move them. Hey, punch out and directly blast the elder's head. Then, the sound of the system has already appeared, but there is very little experience, and it can be ignored. As for the foreign disciples, Lone Fei did not even have the interest to shoot. Then the dragon flew in a flash and wrapped the figure on the ground and flew away. Chapter 4484. Chapter 4484. A little light gradually disappeared above the void. The pressure from the sky is also gone at this time. Call. Good risk, this is too strong. The elders of the outer door are like leaks, and there is no resistance. Whether it is strong, if there is no such power, will Zoman give him the treatment of this 96? Dragon fly disappeared. These outside disciples dare to speak, one by one gasping, and the feeling of rest for the rest of the life. For the death of the elders of the outer door, they did not seem to have the slightest wave. Because before this, above the core, the top 10 elders were smashed. Dead an elder, can you let them move? Already indifferent, not even a touch of feeling. On the contrary, is another thing that really shocked them. That is, Long Fei was really taken away. Oh, I knew this before. I was the first to go up the mountain. Is it a test of Zoman? Cocoa is so expensive. I regret this idea I have seen before. I can't think of being led by Long Fei. One by one, disciples said. Even some disciples want to try and want to go up the mountain. However, when the 4-foot just stepped out, it was forced back by an unspeakable force. Hey, the body flew directly out, even more serious than the injury suffered by Long Fei. The whole person was full of breath and fainted. And this scene also let all the outside disciples stop in an instant. The illusion in the heart is directly shattered. But at this moment, a faint voice suddenly came out of the crowd. Don't you find out that the one you just shot is very similar to Long Fei? In a word, it seems to resonate in general. How is this possible? What a joke. How strong is the outrageous? How could it have something to do with Long Fei? And they're not like a long one. Suddenly, someone raised a rebuttal. But, I don't know why, I also have the illusion that they're just one person. Another disciple said, extremely dignified. This time, everyone is in silence. It seems that they have the same doubts in their hearts. At the same time, in the high place of Shanhai Zongxin, Shanhai Zongzhu, Taishang Elder, Yang Lidi, and Chushanhai, the 4 people are looking through the mountains and seas to see what happened before. What do you think? Asked the elders. His face is dignified. How can it be? The matter is already here. I can only wait for a month and let him enter Tongxian Road. If he does not pass, he will inevitably fall into the road, and all the grudges will disappear. He rusts past. It is also the creation of my mountain high zone, the best of both worlds. Yang Li said, at this time, he has already had a real fear of Long Fei. I don't want to provoke it at all. But his voice just fell. Shan Haizong directly denied, shaking his head and said, not necessarily. Shan Haizong's eyes are condensed, and he said with a little thought, don't you find out that the power that this person has just exerted is extremely strong, but it is still incomparable with the 3 days before? Shan Haizong said, the eyes are shining, and I don't know what I am thinking. Yes, the sovereign said it is good. Now that this person is not weak, it is just like that. There is absolutely no such thing, as the elders said, that it is a world of unparalleled feelings. It's just the peak of the people. This kind of cultivation is very rare. But if you want to find it, you can still catch a lot in the world. Chu Shanhai said, his eyes are full of disapproval. This expression makes Yang's heart instantly tremble. Shanhai, don't be impulsive. This person is really strong. And he is now mediocre. Maybe it is intentional Tibetan Mastiff. It was not the case at the beginning. It seems that humans and animals are harmless. That is, a glimpse. In the end, he is behind the scenes. Yang Lili said quickly. At this point, his heart is already deeply fearful of Long Fei. After several times of being suppressed, he was humiliated and stunned on the verge of death. He felt that he never wanted to try again. Therefore, at this moment, I saw Chushanhai's disdain for Long Fei, and the first feeling in my heart was to stop it. However, Chu Shanhai still does not agree. The eyes are full of disdain. The elders are Thailand's fuss, no big deal. On the road to Tongxian, I would like him to compete and see how this so-called monk is. Chushanhai said faintly. The words fell, and all 3 were shocked. It is the mountain sea lord and the elders of the elders who are in silence. And Yang Lidi, but is a look of sorrow. At this time, he already knew that even if he said more, it was useless. After all, Chu Shanhai once followed him in practice. Too proud. Let him admit that others are stronger? Non-existent. Hey, the heart sighs, and Yang Yang no longer says more. At this time, the mountain lord said, in this case, then two-way action. Shanhai, Tongxian Road, I will let you lead the Zoman elite. And Long Fei, since he chose to become a foreign disciple, let him lead a few outside disciples. Just let it be perfunctory at that time. If he really has low combat power, you will push the boat and catch the boat. If his own strength is not good, then the disaster will lead the way. Let one person on the water side and the dark, mysterious person deal with him. The mountain sea lord said. Chushanhai nodded undecidedly. At this point, the pictures in front of a few people disappeared completely, and several people left. In this picture, the place where the frame is fixed, is the scene of Long Fei with a blood shadow and stepping into the land of cultivation. At this time, in the land of cultivation, Long Fei looked at another self who had become a man, and he was big. Is the injury so heavy? The heart has been shaken, actually with his own obsession, to go up the mountain? Long Fei mouth whispered. I also feel doubts. The other party can perceive that he does not feel any accident. After all, there are implications for each other. But let the other side do not care about it. But it is beyond the imagination of Long Fei. No matter what, you have to save it first. It's cheaper for you. But it's good. When you're clear, I am in the dark Tongxian Road, it is more interesting. Long Fei thought in his heart, his eyes turned, looking at the night of the retreat. Woman, come out. I know you have no retreat. Long Fei said. With his perception, nature can be perceived within this chamber without any fluctuations. And this also shows that the night child is not practicing at all. Oops. Boom. At this time, a stone door was also lifted up. Then, the night figure of Maisie came out of it and looked at the smiling dragon, and suddenly he gave birth to a really cold. What do you want to do? Said the night child, instinctively embracing his chest. It seems that I am afraid that Long Fei really wants to prove his promise. A dragon flies and immediately picks a corner. Woman, don't worry. Wait until you're done. You can't run, and the husband will talk to you. But now, I need the power of the devil's bones to refine. Stealing Tundun. Long Fei solemnly said. Chapter 4485. Chapter 4485. Long before, Long Fei knew from the knight's mouth that he was stealing the presence of Tiandan. Stealing the day, darkness, Chun Song, step into the sky. Moreover, the changes in the night of the child have also explained everything. Even the night child did not take stealing Tiandan, just a fusion of a magic bone. It has undergone a qualitative change. Today's cultivation is stronger than the so-called top 10 elders. In a short period of time, this kind of metamorphosis can be achieved. That is, Long Fei feels incredible. And Long Fei, the way to go now is to copy and paste completely. Perhaps the power of stealing Tiandan is not enough to compare with a magic bone swallowed by the night, but Long Fei believes that his super alchemy can make up for all the shortcomings. However, the night child is ridiculous and laughs. Stealing Tiandan? Do you believe this kind of thing? If there's a real steal, isn't the master of the sky all made casually? But it was originally for you to help me, but casually. Night child said. But after that, my face was apologetic. The devil is impossible for you, and you know that it has been integrated into my body. However, if you want to use my strength and let him recover, it is easy. Even, I can give him a glimpse of the power of the magic bone grass. Let him break through the realm of the present, recast the heart, and reunite the meridians. Night child said. I looked at Long Fei and looked at the Long Fei that had become a person, faintly said. But there was a suspicion in the eyes. It seems to be guessing why Long Fei will be so heartwarming. Moreover, even the doubts that could be produced by the outside disciples at this time, the feeling of the night child's heart also gave birth to this feeling. However, this feeling is also extremely vague in her view. Can't see it. Therefore, even if there is doubt in the heart, nothing is said. And at this time, Long Fei mouth gently smiled. No. Stealing Tiandan does exist. Maybe what you said is awkward, but in me, as long as I think, it has to have. Long Fei said. Very plain words, but at this time it is a great confidence. If I want to have it, there is no day. It's so arrogant. Blow it. You really think you are God? Can you control everything? Things that the world doesn't exist, you can make it out of thin air. The night child smirked and thought that Long Fei deliberately said this in front of her. But the next moment his eyes were directly caught. Because of the hands of Long Fei, there are 9 different forces at a time. Nothing else. It is Shanghai Avenue. the fundamental strength of 9 of the top 10 elders of Shanhaizong. They were blown up by Long Fei, and all the power exploded. Night Child is charming. How did you do it? The power of the avenue can still be taken for yourself. Night Child was amazed. This kind of thing is unheard of. You don't know much about it. Long Fei smiled softly. Immediately, the hands began to be noisy. Jiudao Shanhai Avenue, under the control of Long Fei, turned into a ball at an amazing speed. Then, the compression is compressed until it only becomes a peanut size. Melt! Long Fei screamed. Boom! In a flash, the 9 forces quickly merged into one. Aside, the nightlight flickering in the eyes. Watching Long Fei perform alone, the eyes are extremely hot. You shouldn't want to refine all the power into a remedy to fulfill this person? Night Zime asked. Yes, I just said that it is not very accurate to refine the system. Exactly, this Dan is more suitable for naming it, taking Tiandan. I want to refine a remedy between the heavens and the earth. Take the world of creation, let him step into the sky. Long Fei said, his eyes filled with expectations. Immediately, his eyes turned and looked at the night. I don't know what the magic bones of your fusion are, but I can feel that this power can become the core, and it can capture the meaning of 9 days. So, I need your strength. Long Fei's eyes are full of urgency, looking at the night, and his eyes full of desire. The night is charming, but the eyes are very dark at this moment. As the stars twinkle, the depth is hard to determine. At this time, among the dragons of Long Fei, the light disappeared instantly. Because of this moment, the Night Child has changed. Another personality is almost without warning. Or it is another kind of existence in the night body, appeared. Oh, I can't think of what you hide so deeply. On the last time, you were just fighting for extraordinary strength. I can't think of it. I can already crush the world. It seems that the little idiot is looking for you to help, but it is really a cat who encounters a dead mouse. Night Zime said, cold and unparalleled. Among the twins, the calm is terrible. Not even with meaning emotions. Little idiot? Long Fei sneaked. Directly understand, the Night Child May said, it should be that big nerves, open mouth will become the night of his own woman. Everyone, you're not hiding. And the little idiot in your mouth is already a man of Lao Tzu. No matter who you are or what relationship you have with her. But from now on, you better hide in the dark and never appear. Otherwise, I don't mind killing you directly. Long Fei said coldly. Destroy me? A big tone. Is it because of your current peak? Naive. The Night Child is disdainful and full of contempt. Through these is enough. If it is not because of the night, you think you can still stand in front of Lousy? Long Fei said, it is impossible to think. Moreover, Long Fei now, but also gave birth to an impulse to kill the night of this character. If you still can't figure out what secrets there are in the night, and fear that it will affect the original character, Long Fei has already shot. If you can't make a big deal, you can always get rid of it. It's too arrogant. The world is not as simple as you think. It's even more arrogant than the madman that came at the beginning. And even the means are so similar. The Night Child snorted and immediately looked at the power in the hands of Long Fei. But in the end, he was still counted as someone else's pawn. Now, the time you appear, the breath of that person also appears. It seems that your appearance is just the other's expulsion. Night Child said, and Long Fei, the eyes become more and more complicated. Night Child May did not say a word. There will be a figure in the mind of Long Fei. That is the Dragon Heaven. Dragon Tyrant's loss? Long Fei felt a move and fell into meditation. However, this idea was only a moment, and it was suppressed by Long Fei. He is him. I am me. In Laozi's dictionary, there is no impossible. But now you still think about it. Are you taking the initiative to give me the power of the bones? Or I will come and take it. Long Fei's eyes burned, staring at the position of the knight's chest, and said, You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.